While Kate was huddling in Grandma Catherine's arms in her room, Exie huddled in Kate's arms. Overwhelmed with sadness and stress, the recently relocated parrot found itself in suffocation. Exie's distress was somehow mirroring Kate's sorrow as she also felt helpless in protecting him. As time passed, Kate began to gradually calm down, and it was during this moment that Catherine approached her. "Are you better now? See, this all indeed is Jane's fault and you did the right thing. But next time, just don't beat someone, okay? You're my lovely child, right?" "Yes, Kate is great. She's a sensible and good girl," Mason continued. Catherine also kept cheering her up. "Kate is Grandma's good baby, right?" The two grandparents were like a baton. They'd finished their sentences with nothing but praises for their little munchkin. However, this was the first time that Kate was experiencing this. Unthinkingly, Kate grabbed Exie and exclaimed, "You're my good baby too." A smile immediately decorated the old couple's faces. They found it sweet and funny. Though taken aback for a moment, they burst out laughing. Albert had just come out of a meeting. At the door of his study room, he stood silently looking at Kate and Jane after they were done with their fight, though he couldn't help frowning. He just kept looking at Kate without saying even a word, feeling a slight pain in his heart. Seeing Harry approaching, Albert gasped in a low voice, "Harry, you must settle this matter as soon as possible." When Jennifer first married, the two of them didn't have a deep relationship since they already had Brent, their son. Though they were able to get by it, the Crook family finally got to know the truth when Jane was born. This made Harry want to divorce, but Jennifer's family, the Cardwells, refused, and since the disappearance of the younger sister Carolina made everyone in the Crook family exhausted by now, this matter continued to drag on until now. Harry muffled, "I know, but now that both the children are grown up, I'm slightly worried that this divorce will affect them." No matter how unromantic his and Jennifer's relationship was, Harry still loved his children. Every family had matters that were difficult to solve, and Albert couldn't make decisions for Harry's life, so he just nodded. "Take care of yourself," he said. The two looked into Kate's room. The little girl had already passed the incident and was now discussing her name with Catherine. "My mother named me Kate." Her childish voice was drowned by a seriousness on her face, as if she had memorized what her mother said. Catherine's nose was sore. She nodded and explained. "Kate's name is really good. Mother's name is Carolina Crook, so Kate's surname is Crook now, okay?" Kate was happy. "Wow, my surname is the same as my mother. Crook!" Mason smiled. "What's good about Crook?" Kate raised her little hand and hurriedly replied, "Kate Crook." Everyone couldn't help but burst out of laughter. This was when Albert walked in yelling, "Call me Crook, Crook." Catherine shook her head. "It's not good. It sounds weird." It was an immediate trouble for everyone. It was indeed difficult to keep the surname. So everyone decided to hold a meeting and call for names as a family. Catherine asked again, "Kate is 8 years old this year, isn't she?" Kate thought for a while. "Yes, Mom said that I was born on the 20th of September." Everyone paused. 20th September? That's a week later. 1 week later, Kate will be 9 years old. Catherine jumped in. "That's great. We must have a birthday party for Kate and buy her a super big cake. Then Kate can also make a wish." Kate's eyes lit up. Excitedly she asked, "Really? I can have a big cake too?" Seeing her this thrilled, Catherine couldn't help asking, "By the way, who celebrated Kate's birthday before?" Kate shook her head disappointingly. Kate had never celebrated her birthday before. Her father was never free, and her aunt said that since Carol was pregnant, she'd vomit if she saw the cake. So now for the first time, Kate had some real expectations for her birthday. She could finally make a wish with an actual cake on her birthday this time. Seeing the little girl happy, everyone was relieved. Everyone was back in one place during the dinner. This was the first time that the Crook family was so lively after 4 years. However, Mason yet again mentioned the matter of Kate's naming. This stumped the 8 uncles once again, and all the powerful bigwigs started racking their brains to think about it. For a while the dining table went eerily quiet. Though Jennifer remained silent, she felt more and more unhappy in her heart. Kate hit Jane just now, and they didn't care about her. Rather, they still thought about Kate's name. Jennifer was feeling sorry for her daughter. She asked, "Jane, this is your favorite crab meat, right?" Jane stared at Kate. She didn't want Kate to eat with her. The table belonged to her, and this house belonged to her. She was unable to understand why Kate was still there. For Jane, who almost strangled Exie to death, Kate still held grudges. So she ignored Jane and turned her head away. Jane turned angry. She threw away the spoon on the ground with a snap and burst into tears. It was yet again an eye-rolling moment for all three boys, Roy, Alex, and Brent. "Here we go again," they said to each other. Jennifer quickly asked, "What's wrong with you? What happened to you suddenly?" Jane grabbed the bowl and threw away all the remaining food too. "She bullied me. You all ignore me." Jane was crying endlessly. Jennifer immediately felt sour in her heart. She looked deeply at everyone and pronounced, "Did you guys see it? It's all your fault. Children are the most sensitive. You are cold, you are violent. You don't speak to or comfort Jane." Jennifer turned to Jane. "Good girl, Mom is here. Mom is reasonable, right?" Jane didn't want to throw a tantrum, but she was hurt. She threw away her fork and her plate and kept going while crying and shouting, "I don't want her to eat with me. I don't want any sister." Mason suppressed his anger and very coldly asked Jane, "If you don't want to eat, Jane, just go down. Who taught you to lift the bowl and throw the fork on the dining table?" Seeing how fierce his grandfather was, Jane started to cry even more desperately, kicking the table vigorously with both her feet. "I don't want it." No matter what others said, she only had 4 words. "I don't want it." Everyone was blank. Harry also didn't say a word, but he surely was angry inside. Harry was so angry that he directly picked up Jane and took her upstairs. Jennifer turned anxious. "Harry, what are you doing?" Kate was so frightened that the meat in her hands dropped. She never saw her father dragging Jane like this before. She said to herself, "Suddenly I feel that Jane is also a little pitiful." Jennifer immediately grabbed crying Jane, wrapped her in her arms, glared at Harry with a few tears in her eyes, and went upstairs. For her, everything was too much. Was it really necessary to be so unthoughtful towards a child? Didn't they see it? Jane still had wounds on her wrists, her eyes were also bruised, and they still wanted to purposely leave Jane like that. Jennifer felt as if her heart was about to break. Jennifer tightly hugged Jane and started crying herself too. She felt chilled. She was sad about the fact that even 16 years of relationship could not warm Harry's heart. This was when Jane's grandmother and Jennifer's mother, Hannah, made a video call and saw that both of them were crying. She quickly asked, "What's the matter?" Jennifer told her the whole story sobbingly. Hannah, on hearing this, turned very angry. She said, "Look, I'll just say it. In the past, when there was only Jane in the Crook family, they would treat her like a princess no matter what. But ever since that little girl arrived, they won't care about Jane anymore." Jane heard. She realized that it was the first time she was treated like this, and that neither her uncle nor her grandparents came to coax her. She started crying even harder. Jennifer immediately interrupted. "Mom, stop talking." Hannah stared overwhelmingly. "Why can't I say it? It's like this only. I'm convinced a child born in the direct line is no better than a child with a different surname." Jennifer cut her. "Mom, Kate will also be surnamed Crook." Hannah shook her head in refusal. "It's over. Our Jane will never be able to get ahead of us even in the future. That wild girl Kate is not at all easy to mess with. Do you realize that? When she was in New York, she pushed her stepmother down the stairs to have a miscarriage. And still, her uncles protected her. It's Kate who made a mistake, but they rather made the Cooper family suffer and let them go bankrupt." Jennifer frowned. Didn't the stepmother abort herself to frame Kate? "Wait, I'll send you the breaking news video." Hannah sent Jennifer a video of a whistleblower who claimed to be Carol's good friend and had the voice changed, leaking the information. The video also showed Carol suffering a miscarriage in the hospital after being critically ill, and a short video of some bodyguards in black throwing the old couple and James Cooper from the Cooper family out of the family's villa. Also, there was a small video of Chris pressing James and hitting him hard against the wall. And of course, in all those videos, it was the Crook family that was highlighted, and not Kate. Hannah continued, "Look, 2 notifications of critical illness, 2 hemorrhages. Which stepmother would kill the child in her belly because she hates a child? Also 2 hemorrhages and critical illnesses. Who would take her own life? It's all a joke. Look, the only culprit is Kate, who has been scheming at such a young age against her unborn baby brother. Today she beat up Jane. And still, there was no one from the Crook family to coax her." What does this mean?
I'm telling you, the little girl has put some magic on Catherine and that old man. I still don't know what to say about our Jane, but what I surely know is that Jane would always be badly ignored in the Crook house because of Kate.
Jennifer was busy watching the video. She was getting disgusted. She couldn't even imagine how cruel a child of Kate's age could be. How could she kill her unborn baby brother and almost kill her stepmother? It was so unreal for Jennifer. How could the Crook family allow such a person in their family who was responsible for her family's bankruptcy? Jennifer cautioned, "It seems that we should be more careful about her in the future." Both mother and daughter talked about the seriousness of the situation, and on the other hand, Jane listened to everything. Kate killed the younger brother in her stepmother's belly. Kate was very scheming, and Kate was a bad girl. These were the words that were now firmly etched in Jane's mind. The revealing Carol was very clever not to go to the big media, but spread it in the form of gossip. In just a few weeks, the fake news that Kate caused her stepmother to have a miscarriage and almost killed her had spread like wildfire. Because of that, all the wealthy families were gossiping about her. Kate was perceived as an evil kid in front of everyone. Initially, the 8 Crook brothers didn't even bother much, since they had no interest in becoming part of such a tedious group that constantly gossiped about others. But when they found out that Kate's name was being dragged in the mud, they sent early invitations to every single one of the gossipy idiots to invite them to Kate's birthday party, making it clear to them that she was the daughter of the Crook family. Kate had a wide array of dresses in her closet on her birthday, including princess dresses and tutu skirts. The dresses came in various colors, ranging from red and yellow to pink and soft green, resembling a vibrant rainbow. "Kate dear, choose a dress for yourself." Catherine sweetly stroked her little head. After uttering those words, she gazed into her sparkling eyes, and Kate felt a gradual alleviation of her remorse and anguish. Kate lifted her gaze and inquired, "Are they all mine?" Catherine affirmed, "Indeed, all of them are yours, my dear Kate." Kate hesitated for a moment, leaned closer to Catherine and kissed gently. "Thank you, Grandma." In the end, Kate chose a pink and purple princess dress, with a little tiara that had lots of pearls embedded in it, with 2 pink bow knot hairpins. She also wore a bracelet with small diamonds in it. Catherine was stunned when she saw her granddaughter and murmured, "Kate, my dear sweetheart, you look so beautiful." Kate tilted her head, smiled, raised her hand, tapped Catherine's nose with her tiny fingers and boasted, "Grandma is also very beautiful." Catherine couldn't help laughing at her innocence. The corners of Kate's lips curved slightly. Kate's mother told her to take good care of her grandmother and make her happy. Kate is happy when her grandma smiled and laughed with her. Outside their mansion, 2 sneaky figures were watching. They were James Cooper and Carol Cooper. That day, the Crook family's mansion was semi-open to the outside world, and the mansion was extremely lively, with melodious music playing slowly, bright lights shining on the lawn, and people drinking and laughing. Carol was watching the whole scenario from the outside. Her eyes were full of jealousy. Kate was looking so beautiful that day that no one could take their eyes off her. No one knew how miserable she had been all this time. Back when she was living with the Cooper family, her life was a living hell. Her face was disfigured. James Cooper hated her, and he used to torture her from time to time. The Cooper family treated her like a cow, and she used to serve their family like a servant. James stretched his neck, frowned, and said, "We don't have an invitation letter. How can we get in?" Carol suppressed the jealousy in her eyes and said softly, "James, we are Kate's parents. Why can't we go in on Kate's birthday? As long as we show our identity to the guard, we can go in, but..." She stopped her line in between and looked at the shabby clothes on her body, and felt very uncomfortable. She thought to herself that she used to be a famous lady in the past, but now what happened to her condition? James looked at her and asked anxiously, "Now what?" Carol said to him, "Let's go buy a dress first. As the relatives of the Crook family, we can't look too shabby." James got irritated at that and angrily said, "Where is the money to buy clothes now?" Carol blinked her eyes and simply told him, "I know there is a place where we can sell our blood and get the money." In the mansion, Kate was wearing a beautiful dress but was holding a slightly worn-out little rabbit in her arms and was led downstairs by Albert. Behind her were Chris, Antonio, and Jacob. No one saw that Kazo was standing behind these people. Kazo leaned on the railing of the stairs and looked at Kate with pursed lips. Well, fortunately we've caught up. At this time, the lights went down and focused on Kate. Kazo raised his eyebrows as he raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The ray of light seemed to be dyed with a layer of fairy spirit, and its purple skirt of Kate actually lit up with little stars, like a starry sky, beautiful and gorgeous. In addition, her body seemed to be shrouded in holy light, making her look like a mortal elf. Everyone was amazed. What a beautiful dress. What a delicate little girl. They all looked at Kate secretly. This is the little daughter of the Crook family. She was really favored. Albert, the cold-faced president, was willing to bow his head and lead her by the hand, only he didn't lift her skirt. On this occasion she was holding a worn-out little rabbit. It was heard that the rabbit was left to her by her mother. They thought Kate was good at pretending. After Carol's breaking news video, everyone's first reaction when they saw Kate was naturally arrogance, scheming, and White Lotus. They were afraid that their children would suffer from dealing with her, so they told their children not to talk to Kate. Of course, those who are afraid will be pleased, and there are a few noble ladies who are different, pushing their children to accompany Kate. Standing on the second floor, Jane looked at Kate, who was being admired by all the stars, and her mouth was flattened. She pointed at Kate's dress, turned her head and said, "Mom, I want that dress too." Jennifer looked at Kate and saw that Kate's star skirt was shining slightly, as if the Milky Way had fallen in 9 days, and a flash of amazement flashed in her eyes. Immediately her heart was very unbalanced. She had only seen such a beautiful dress in her life. Such a dress should be worn by her precious princess. They really don't love Jane anymore. Jennifer said silently, "Jane, good girl, Mom will buy it for you later." Jane cried, I don't, I want that one." Jennifer knew that Jane must have gotten this and she wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, it was indeed so. The Crook family originally only had the little Princess Jane. If it wasn't for Kate's arrival, all the good things in the world would belong to her baby Jane. Their eyes were fixed on Kate, and their hearts were all on Kate. Jane was ignored by them. Jennifer just felt too sad, as if the entire Crook family owed her and Jane. But they completely ignored that when Kate's dresses were delivered. The Crook family also bought a batch of princess dresses for Jane. Kate had a starry sky skirt, and Jane also had one. Although the styles were slightly different, the prices were not much different. Hearing these words, Jane was crying even more. Jennifer wanted to take her back to the room temporarily, but Jane rushed downstairs. "Jane!" Jennifer anxiously chased after her. In the garden, Kate was sitting in front of the small table, preparing a cake with some children. A boy sat abruptly among the group of little girls. This boy was Roy, and in terms of seniority, he was Kate's older brother. Roy was Albert's eldest son at that time, according to his father's instructions. He sat beside Kate and watched the child. His face was full of cold expressions, a bit cool, which was quite true of his father. Kate was cutting the cake. The sweet cake made the children drool, and Kate couldn't help swallowing. But the first piece of cake she cut was handed to Roy and she said, "Brother, here it is." But she didn't want Roy to look away and say, "I don't eat cake." He had a cold face because of Jane. He had always been very repulsed by the creature's sister, and he didn't want to talk to Kate at all. The light in Kate's eyes dimmed, so she had no choice but to take the cake back and said, "Okay." On the side, Kazo, the ghost, saw the sadness in Kate's eyes and couldn't help but say, "Hey, don't worry about this, little school bag. Come on, it's your birthday today. Master will teach you a little skill." Kate was about to speak when suddenly a figure rushed out from the side and rushed towards her. Jane grabbed Kate's skirt, tore it and cried, "This skirt is mine, you bastard! You stole my skirt!" Jane was very angry and pushed Kate hard. Kate was staggered by her push, and the cake in her hand fell onto her skirt. She was stunned, trying to reason. "This is the skirt my uncle gave me." Jane didn't listen at all and waved her hand to hit her in the face. She screamed, "I'll kill you! I'll kill you! I'll kill you!" Jane cried angrily. "I hate you! I don't allow you to come to my house! Get lost!" Kate suddenly became angry. Jane robbed her parrot, robbed her skirt, and now she is beating her. Kate had a fierce face and she slapped Jane. Jane was stunned. She covered her face and cried loudly, "You hit me! How dare you hit me!" Mom said it was because of Kate that my uncles, parents, and grandparents stopped loving me. This irritated Kate. She bit her lip, perhaps because the new environment made her a little uneasy, but her eyes still showed the original stubbornness. She was fierce and refused to admit defeat. If you hit me, I will hit you too. Mom said, don't be bullied. If someone hits you, you have to hit back hard even if it doesn't make sense. Jane burst into tears. She dared not to fight back if she wanted to hit anyone, so why would Kate fight back? The two children wrestled together like that. The red rope in Kate's hand glowed faintly red, and Jane was sent flying with a sudden slap. Jane fell to the ground, only felt the burning pain on her face, and burst into tears immediately. All this happened so fast, the two of them finished the fight before other people could react. Roy, who was there, was stunned, and he barely reacted until Jane flew out. Although he didn't like his younger sister, the task assigned by his father was to take good care of her, so Roy hurried up to help Kate and asked, "Are you okay?" With red eyes, Kate shook her head and said nothing. Not so for Jane. She screamed and cried. Her crying was sharp and penetrating. The fight between the two children was sudden. Everyone in this circle raised their daughters to be ladies. Who would have thought that the two daughters of the richest Crook family would fight? Jennifer ran over, looking at the slap marks on Jane's face distressedly, and became angry. "How could you hit your sister?" she demanded angrily. Kate held her skirt tightly and said, "It was my sister who hit me first." Jennifer panicked and screamed at Kate, "Nonsense, how could your sister beat someone?" Roy frowned and said coldly, "Aunt, it's Jane who hit Kate first." Jane immediately started crying and shouting, "She hit me first. It was Kate who hit me first. This was my skirt. Kate snatched my skirt and beat me. Kate is a bad girl, a scheming little bitch." She spoke vigorously about what she had learned from her mother and grandmother. All different kinds of expressions flashed across the faces of the people present at the venue. It turned out that what Kate was wearing was Jane's skirt. This child snatched away her sister's beloved dress as soon as she returned to Crook's house. The Crook family was still pampering Kate, and Jane was pissed because of the discrimination she was facing. Jennifer hugged Jane, her eyes turned red, and she kept coaxing, "Okay, it's Kate who hit you first, mother's sweet baby. Don't cry." The expression on Roy's face was extremely cold. He said coldly, "Whether Jane hit Kate first or Kate hit Jane first, Aunt, you can ask someone else and you will know." Jennifer suddenly pointed at a little girl and said, "Sarah, tell me." The girl named Sarah froze for a moment, looked at Jennifer, then at her mother. Her eyes flickered slightly. "I didn't see clearly. What I think I saw was Kate hitting Jane first." Roy frowned when he heard that and asked, "What do you mean you didn't see clearly?" When Jane rushed forward, it was so obvious that Jane hit the person first. So why did all the blame burden on Kate hit Jane first? "What did you say? Say it again." He stared at Sarah. His voice was as cold as his father's. Sarah quickly grabbed her mother's clothes, and with a look of helplessness she lowered her head and dared not to speak. After seeing all this chaos, everyone was speechless. It was rumored in various groups that the child who had just been brought back by the Crook family had a bad heart. After her stepmother had a miscarriage, she even asked her uncles to bankrupt the Cooper family. The Crook family just wanted to make up for what they owed Carolina. That's why they supported Kate and did all that for her. Everyone felt that Kate was the real reason behind her family's downfall and her stepmother's miscarriage. Everyone at the party started questioning Kate's personality. One of them asked Roy, "Don't scare Sarah. She just told the truth." "Oh, Miss Kate will be spoiled like this. Although she is very pitiful without her mother since she was a child, she can't be like this." When Jane heard that others were on her side, she cried even more vigorously. People started criticizing Kate for starting the fight with Jane and being a problem for everyone. Kate, who was listening to all this and seeing the reactions from people surrounding her, became angry and upset. She clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't figure that every time people blamed her even when it was not her fault. That is what exactly happened when her stepmother staged the miscarriage and made it look like Kate's fault. She questioned herself. Is the world of adults different from that of children? Kate insisted to everyone, "I'm not wrong," she lied. "Uncle bought the dress for me, and Jane hit me first." Before she could even finish speaking, Jennifer interrupted her. She said, "Enough! Your sister's face was beaten like this by you. What else do you want to say?" Kate was about to say something in her defense but was stooped by Jennifer. Jennifer knelt and hugged Jane. "Jane, be good. Stop crying, let's go back first." When Jane heard the word cry, she cried even more fiercely. She screamed, "I don't want to go back, I want my skirt." Kate's explanation was drowned in her cries. She stood alone in the middle of the crowd, and what she wanted to say was suppressed by the people around her. Roy's small face was tense. The younger sister was troublesome. Just as he was about to pull Kate behind him, a tall figure hugged Kate first. Albert looked around and asked coldly, "What's going on?" His face was cold and Sarah froze instantly, hiding behind her mother and not daring to come out. Everyone convicted Kate and said, "Jane just ran over and said that Kate's skirt belonged to her, and Kate beat Jane without saying a word." "That's right, Kate still wants to press the cake on Jane's face." Albert sneered, "Did you see this with your own eyes?" Mason also came over leaning on a cane with a firm tone. "I believe Kate is not a child who would beat someone and initiate the fight. Whoever said Kate was wrong, stand up and let me see." Everyone choked for a moment and looked at Sarah one after another. When Sarah dared to show up, Jane cried even harder. Sarah's mother quickly laughed and said, "Don't be angry, maybe Sarah is wrong. It's normal for children to fight." But no one paid any attention to her. As for Jennifer, she felt even more uncomfortable in her heart. For her it's okay when there are no outsiders, but now that there are so many people here, the old man could have increased the tension for Jane. Jennifer suppressed her sobs and said in a low voice, "Jane, let's go, we shouldn't be here." Everyone looked at Jennifer with sympathy. On the contrary, Kate appeared emotionless with an expressionless face and remained silent. These types of situations were not unfamiliar to her, as she had become accustomed to such occurrences. In her time with the Cooper family, whenever her stepmother was injured or upset, her father would interrogate her. Each time she attempted to explain, she would be met with a harsh slap from her father. Over time, Kate became accustomed to these events. She became accustomed to being viewed with suspicion and disgust by others. She even became accustomed to staying silent. However, this time was different for her. She did not want her uncle and grandfather to misunderstand her. Summoning her courage, Kate firmly stated, "Just a moment ago I was cutting the cake when Jane suddenly came running over. She grabbed my skirt, hit me, and in my anger I pushed her down." After Kate said a few words, although the vocabulary was not very good, the logic of the event was sorted out. Albert and the old man both understood, they guessed correctly, and it was Jane who made the first move. Jennifer quit, and she said forcefully, "You mean Jane hit you first?" Jane is usually a little reserved, but she doesn't hit people. Mason said angrily, "Don't you know if she beats someone or not?" Jennifer stood up with a sudden sound and said loudly, "Dad, what do I know? I only know that after Kate came, you all targeted Jane. Jane was not like this. It was you who forced a child to become a child. If this is the case, what did Jane do wrong?" Everyone was in an uproar. If it was just a guess at first, what Jennifer said now proved that Kate was a troublemaker. It was evident that the originally good family was torn apart by this child. Harry's face turned red. He was not good at words, and when he was so angry, he could only utter two words, "Shut up." He went up to grab Jennifer's hand, gritted his teeth, and said, "Come with me." Jennifer broke free from him and said forcefully, "I won't." Seeing her parents quarreling, Jane even rolled on the spot, screaming and crying, almost piercing her eardrums. Albert said coldly to his guard, "Travis, go and turn on the surveillance in the yard." Jennifer was stunned for a moment. She was so angry that she couldn't help shaking. She said, "He still wanted to check the surveillance. Do they have to force Jane to death?" Jennifer burst into tears, choked with sobs, and said, "You don't need to check. Can I go with Jane?" Jennifer tried to hug Jane, but she refused, as she was scared too because she knew it was her fault somewhere. She continued to cry. Jane burst into tears. Jennifer wiped away Jane's tears, looking like she was being bullied miserably. Everyone looked at Jennifer and Jane sympathetically, thinking they were so pitiful. Jane's grandma kept groaning, "Calm down. It's normal for children to fight and fight. Oh, don't be angry, my dear Crook family. Is it worth being so serious about a little thing?" The old woman smiled and persuaded the whole Crook family, but forgot who was behind the scenes to sow discord. Albert ignored her at all. Then, Travis quickly took out a USB flash drive and said, "Sir, the monitoring has been dialed up. Do you want to check it?" Unexpectedly, Albert lifted his chin and said coldly, "Take out the curtain and project it on it." Jennifer was stunned and blurted out, "Why do you guys have to trouble my little Jane? Can't you see she is already traumatized by all this?" Albert sneered, "Didn't you say that Jane can't beat people? Then what are you afraid of?" Jennifer didn't have anything to say, so she remained silent. The curtain was quickly set up, and what happened in the small garden just now was revealed without any concealment. In the surveillance, Kate was dividing the cake. Roy turned his face away and refused. At this time, Jane suddenly rushed out, pulled Kate's skirt and pushed her without saying a word. Kate tried to say something, but Jane didn't listen and directly slapped Kate in the face. Then Kate got angry and hit Jane back, and the two children started fighting like this. The monitoring was relatively far away, so no one could have heard what the children were saying, but it is obvious that Jane hit Kate first. Everyone looked at Sarah in astonishment. Just now she said that it was Kate who hit Jane first. But after looking at the video, it was clear that it wasn't the same case at all. Someone from the crowd said, "Didn't Sarah just say that Kate hit Jane without saying a word?" In reality, it's the other way around. Sarah's lies were exposed in public, and she was so ashamed and angry that she almost cried, and Sarah's mother was also extremely embarrassed. She smiled and said, "My child, you may have misremembered. Who knew that the Crook family was so ruthless that they put surveillance on them?" Everyone didn't believe Sarah's mother's words at all. Sarah was old enough that she couldn't remember it wrong. Her brain worked fine, so how could she be misleading? Or she was deliberately misleading others, right? Someone from the crowd said, "Hey, if you say that, you can't blame Miss Kate." "That's right, it was Miss Jane who made the move first, so no matter what, you can't hit someone, right?" voiced someone else from the crowd. Seeing other people's doubtful eyes, Jane's eyes were a little dazed and helpless, and she burst into tears again. Jennifer clenched her fists tighter and tighter. She was heartbroken and said in a trembling voice to Albert, "Albert, how could you do this? How could you release the surveillance camera in public, so that everyone can see that it was Jane who hit the person first? The child is still so young. Where does she put her self-esteem? How big is this psychological shadow? How could you all treat Jane like this?" Albert gave Jennifer a cold look, not bothering to reason with her. In Jennifer's world, it was okay to hurt anyone else but Jane, because Jane was her little princess who was so precious to her. But in all this, she never thought about Kate. Albert looked at Jane, lowered his voice and ordered, "Stand up." What Jane was most afraid of was Albert, who was crying but didn't dare to disobey, so she got up from the ground and stood up. Albert asked, "Do you think you are right?" Jane cried and said nothing, but at this point she vaguely began to feel that she was wrong. She cried and wiped her tears. "I don't want to say anything because I know no one loves me. You all only love Kate." Still making trouble for no reason, but the voice has been much quieter. Jennifer felt distressed. How could they criticize a child in public like this? However, before she could speak, Harry gave her a cold look and said in a cold voice, "You'd better shut up. Otherwise, go back and sign the divorce papers immediately." Jennifer didn't have any words to say, so she remained silent. Kate looked at Jane with a tense face and said nothing. She thought that her sister Jane was not at all bad, but why does this happen every time? She said to herself, "Jane has a mother who loves her, and a baby who has a mother who loves her should be the happiest." But Kate feels that Jane's sister is not happy. Albert continued to ask, "Why did you hit Kate?" Jane sobbed, "I want my skirt. This was my skirt. If Kate wouldn't be here, all of this would have been mine." When Hannah heard this, her heart skipped a beat for some reason. She said quickly, "Hey, look at this kid. You should tell us what you want. What you have done to my little child." Albert looked at Jennifer and asked coldly, "You told Jane that Kate's dress is hers?" Jennifer bit her lip and said, "I didn't." Hannah said anxiously, "Oh, isn't it just a dress? If Kate likes it, give it to Kate. According to you guys, my little kid Jane is arrogant." Albert narrowed his eyes deeply. "What do you mean Kate likes it, so give it to Kate?" As men, they didn't want to care about these little things. However, they won't ever allow others to point fingers at Kate. That matter, even if it was a matter between children, had to be clarified. Albert whispered something to the assistant beside him, and after a while the assistant went to get a document. Jennifer suddenly had a bad feeling. Albert said without a trace of emotion in his voice, "This is the customization data for this starry sky dress, and it is all customized according to Kate's figure and height. Jane is taller than Kate, and Kate is thinner. This dress was originally custom-made for Kate." Everyone was taken aback for a moment, and only then did they think of this question. That was right. Kate was thin and small, and the starry sky dress fitted her just right. Look at Jane again, she was on the strong side. Even if Kate took off the starry sky skirt, Jane wouldn't be able to wear it. Jennifer couldn't step down from the stage and felt very resentful. Even so, it still couldn't change the fact that they were eccentric. She said, "I didn't say that the skirt belonged to Jane, I just said that Kate has it but Jane doesn't, that's why Jane is making trouble." Everyone looked at Albert again. Albert signaled the assistant to open the second page of the customized contract. Kate customized the starry sky skirt, and Jane also customized the starry sky skirt. This page is the data of Jane's skirt. Jennifer again became silent as she had nothing to say. This time again it was proved that she was wrong. Someone glanced sharply and exclaimed, "I thought Miss Kate's starry sky dress was the most expensive. 1 million. I didn't expect Miss Jane's dress to be even more expensive. 1.5 million. Although the amount is not much, it is just a little money for the Crook family, but this cannot be said to be biased." The eyes of everyone looking at Jennifer changed slightly. Several people whispered, "The child is ignorant. Is it because of what the adults told her, that she thinks the skirt is hers?" "I also think that I don't know how mothers teach children," commented someone else. "I have long heard that this child is arrogant and unreasonable," another person spoke. Jennifer bit her lip. She just felt her face was hot, and she couldn't get off the stage. She said to herself, "Why are these people like this? Is it uneducated to talk about others in front of others?" Albert said, "Jane, do you understand now? This dress originally belonged to Kate, and you have your skirt. But if you want the same dress as Kate, your Uncle Albert and Uncle Chris will get it customized for you." The arrogant Jane finally calmed down and started listening to her elders. It was a well-proven fact that children after a certain age only tend to listen to logic rather than others talking like Jane did. She finally understood the whole scenario and started listening to Albert. She understood that she was misguided. Now whether it was her grandfather or uncle, they had clearly stated the bottom line. Jane began to realize that crying will not solve the problem. Seeing that Jane stopped crying, Mason said, "Roy, take your sister back to her room." He didn't want to let Jennifer take Jane away. Roy had a cold face, although he didn't like Jane. He still said, "Let's go." Jane walked away while sobbing. When Jane left and Jennifer was left alone on the stage, she felt immense pain as she was not even allowed to take her daughter to her room. She thought that even if it was Jane's fault, she was still Jane's mother. So what rights do other people have to discipline Jane instead of her? Mason looked at Jennifer coldly. He said to Jennifer, "Don't you notice what have you done to your little child? At least before Jane never lied to anyone or hurt anyone, but now she's doing all this." There was still a bit of gentleness at Jane's face before, but now it was gone. After saying this, he stopped because he didn't want to create a scene in front of other people. Mason has already restrained himself. He did not criticize Jennifer in front of outsiders. No one else knew what Mason could have done with them, but Hannah and Jennifer knew it exactly. They knew that Mason was capable of persuading Harry to divorce Jennifer. Afraid of Mason, Hannah started to persuade the Crooks again. Jennifer's in-laws calmed down. Hannah had a smiling face, but she was very upset in her heart. She was upset because of the interference of the elders of the Crook family in the marriage of young people. Jennifer's expression turned ugly and she said, "Mom, stop talking." She turned and left, and Hannah hurriedly followed. After walking far away, Hannah started again. "Look, I just said that their family members are eccentric. They are all children, how can they keep criticizing Jane? Jane is so young, I don't know how is she wrong. They said they didn't say a word about Kate, so it's entirely our Jane's fault. If things go on like this, maybe they will drive Jane away after a while," she added. Jennifer was upset and said angrily, "Mom, don't talk about it, just go." Hannah left muttering and Jennifer walked alone, wiping away tears in the grievance. She still felt that she was right. Mason and the others were strange. Jennifer was suppressing her dissatisfaction and grievance, but at this moment she saw someone making trouble at the gate of the mansion. A doorman came in a hurry, ready to look for the housekeeper, but Jennifer immediately stopped him. "What happened?" The guard said. "There are 2 people outside who say they are Miss Kate's parents." Jennifer was taken aback. Kate's biological father? She had heard about the Cooper family in New York after Kate caused her stepmother to have a miscarriage. Her father, James, accidentally hit Kate hard in his anger, and the Crook family directly made bankrupt. Jennifer lowered her eyes flickering slightly. Her Jane is so miserable and wronged, so why was Kate so happy? Let others see what kind of child Kate was. Knowing that her grandparents' family was rich, she immediately followed her uncles away, leaving behind her grandparents and her father. She is just selfish, and a person who loved rich and hated poor people. After thinking about Kate, Jennifer ordered the guard, "Let them in." The guard froze for a moment. "Mom, don't you need to talk to the boss?" Jennifer frowned. "Am I not enough to give permission, or my value is less than other people in this house?" In the past few years, Jennifer and her children stayed at Crook's mansion all the time, and her words carried a great importance. So James and Carol stepped into the Crook family mansion as they wished. The Crook family was glorious and majestic. The lawn in front of the gate alone was of 2 acres. When James and Carol were in New York, they considered themselves members of the upper class. Now standing in front of the Crook family mansion, they felt like dogs. The 2 involuntarily tugged at the slightly wrinkled dresses on their bodies. Carol said warmly, "My love, Kate's grandfather's family is grand. You are Kate's biological father. No matter what happens, Kate can't ignore you. If the Crook family is willing to help you, you won't have to hide anymore. Maybe you can live with Kate," she added. James's heart was burning with excitement. Carol added another fire and said in a low voice, "If the Crook family is unreasonable, we will fight for Kate's custody. They are just Kate's natal family, but we are her parents." James nodded repeatedly. He said, "That's right. Today he has to cling to the fact that I am Kate's biological father, and won't leave no matter what. All he needs is a word from the Crook family, and all his problems will be solved, and he may even be able to make a comeback against the wind. Exchanging Kate's custody rights for him to regain his glory is also a little reward for raising Kate so much." After the farce just now, Kate changed her clothes and came down to cut the cake again. No matter if it was true or not, everyone around had smiling faces and wished Kate a happy birthday. It was the first time that so many people celebrated her birthday, and Kate couldn't help but feel happy, and the unhappiness that had happened just now disappeared unknowingly. Catherine said kindly, "Kate, let's make a wish." With a joyful spirit, Kate brought her hands together and shut her eyes tightly, displaying her deep devotion. She expressed her heartfelt desires, saying, "I pray for my mother's happiness in the heavens above, longing for the day when I can reunite with her once more. May my grandma's health continue to improve, enabling her to stand up and move swiftly with vigor. May abundant prosperity embrace all my uncles, both in their professional endeavors and personal lives." The little girl had read all her grandparents and uncles in her heart, but she forgot herself and opened her eyes happily. Albert picked her up and said with a smile, "Blow out the candles." Kate took a deep breath, her cheeks puffed up, and she let out a breath. Unfortunately, she was only able to blow out one of the candles. Everyone couldn't help laughing and looked at Kate holding their breath. Several uncles came over and followed her to blow out the other 8 candles. Everyone was about to applaud, but at this moment a very abrupt voice sounded, "Kate." As soon as Carol and James came in, they saw this joyful sight, and they couldn't help being upset. They were so miserable and so embarrassed, but the little girl was living so happily. But the 2 did not forget their plan before coming. Carol's voice was soft and weak. Her eyes were red and said, "Kate, happy birthday. Your mother is late." James also said, "Father and your stepmother brought you gifts." That moment Kate saw the 2 of them. The smile on her little face disappeared, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. She turned her face away, not looking at the 2 of them at all. Mason's face was ugly, and he shouted angrily, "Who told you to come in? Get out!" Unexpectedly, James and Carol thumped and both knelt. James looked remorseful. Father-in-law, I was wrong. I admit that I was too busy and cared too little when Kate was growing up. The last time was also my fault. The child in Carol's belly was already 6 months old, but I didn't expect him to die suddenly. I couldn't control myself in my anger, and I punished Kate a little harder. Carol's tears fell silently with a painful but tolerant look. Kate, your stepmother is not good. I was not by your side when you needed me most. Mason was so angry that he raised his eyebrows and eyes, but Albert raised his hand to block it and gave him a wink. Seeing this, James and Carol were overjoyed. This trick worked. James continued to sigh and said, Kate, during your growing up period, your father lacked too much. Can you forgive your father? Carol's heart also choked up. Kate, your stepmother has also thought about it. From now on, you won't have any younger brothers and sisters. Let's live a good life as a family, okay? Catherine looked at these two shameless people. He kept saying that he wanted to make up for Kate. He regretted and admitted his mistakes in every word and deed. It was deliberately forced to come to the door on this particular day so that the Crook family could not come to power and take any action. Catherine felt tight in her chest, thinking that her precious daughter was being ruined by such a pig and dog. She felt angry. She clutched her chest, panting heavily. Kate found that something was wrong with Catherine and quickly hugged Catherine's arm. Grandma, what's the matter with you? Kate stretched out her little hand, giving Catherine comfort again and again. Catherine burst into tears and hugged Kate. She sobbed and said, Kate, why my poor child's life is so miserable, and why she had to bear these kinds of parents for all these years. Kate comforted, Grandma, don't be afraid. Kate is here. I am with you, Grandma. Albert hurriedly went to get medicine for the old lady, and the party that had just returned to normal was disrupted again. Everyone looked at the Crook family and then at James and Carol, who were kneeling. Someone from the crowd said the two were still crying with snot and tears. Is this intentional to piss people off, knowing the child's birthday and choosing such a time? Hey, not necessarily. Seeing that they are quite pitiful, they must be forced to help themselves, another person commented. Someone who knew the inside information said, This James is not a good guy. The case of the Cooper family is still under investigation and has not been announced to the public. Few people know about it. Another person said you can't completely blame him. The child who was about to be born was killed. It's understandable that he couldn't hold back his temper and was punished a little harder than he must have. After all, which parent never had punished a child? Anyway, James is also Kate's biological father, so they couldn't separate him from Kate. Sebastian Crook was impatient and gritted his teeth and asked, Brother, why don't you throw this kind of person out and wait for the new year? He wanted to beat James like the last time he did. Albert said lightly, throwing them out directly, wouldn't it be lenient for them? Originally, they planned to finish Kate's birthday, but they didn't expect the two of them to ruin the little girl's party like that. Travis already went to get the evidence. On the day Albert and the others found Kate, Kate's first sentence was, I didn't push anyone. She was sure that her uncle will surely get justice for her, and will prove that she didn't commit any crime, and that she is being blamed falsely by everyone. Albert would never allow anyone to label Kate for a crime she never committed. James knelt on the ground and cried for so long, only to find that no one paid attention to him. The eyes of the Crook family were cold, and the other guests seemed to be watching a good show. He could only look at Kate, and regretfully said, Kate, please forgive Dad. You killed your brother, that's why Dad was so impulsive. Dad is not like this. Usually, James looked at Kate while talking and felt that Kate would not dare to speak. She used to say nothing about him, but Kate said calmly, Father, you are lying. James's expression froze and he said while gritting his teeth, Father didn't lie, there is no lying. Kate replied, Daddy, you have always been like that. You have punished me even for the smallest reason. You never liked me and never considered me your child. James had nothing to say, and he remained silent. He was a little annoyed in his heart, feeling that Kate was too uncooperative. He said while gritting his teeth due to anger, I'm your father. Kate. Albert took the file from Travis's hand and said with a sneer, Whether you are Kate's father or not is not certain. Everyone felt very strange. What was Albert doing? Albert held the dossier, tapped his slender fingers intermittently and asked, Carol, you said it was Kate who pushed you and caused you to have a miscarriage? Whilst lowering her head and pretending to cry, Carol suddenly started panicking for no reason. She choked up and said, "I don't blame Kate, she just feels too insecure." "Do you really think the Cooper family didn't monitor the incident at that time? Do you think they were unscrupulous?" Albert sneered. Carol was in a complete daze. "Albert, what are you talking about? I'm unable to understand," she uttered. Albert glanced at the parrot. "Kate, bring Exie here." Exie, who was with Travis at that point, immediately flew up to Kate's shoulder and resided. Kate then obediently walked up with Exie in her arms while comforting him softly and cutely. "Exie is fine. Uncle doesn't eat birds." Albert paused and his cold face softened a little. While Carol subconsciously glanced at the parrot immediately flapped its wings and quacked, "Don't come here! There are vicious dogs!" Carol smiled, finding the parrot funny. She asked, "What's this?" To her surprise, the parrot imitated Carol's voice and intonated, "Auntie is already very pitiful, and when your uncles question you, you say you pushed me. Did you hear that? You are disobedient, so if you don't listen to me, I'll hit you." Carol's face froze. The damn bird said exactly what she said to Kate that day. Everyone was left stunned, although nobody knew what was going on. The tone of the parrot was the same as Carol's. Could there be another story behind Carol's miscarriage? Seeing everyone's suspicious eyes, Carol's eyes turned red. She looked at Albert. She screamed, "Do you suspect that I framed Kate? The baby was my flesh and blood. Why would I risk my life and my child just to frame Kate? What good would it do to me? You can't just rely on a bird and doubt my intentions. I'm already very sad. I am the one who lost her baby," she added, and burst into unending tears. To this, Albert straightened his tie and said indifferently, "The acting was good. Impressed." Travis was already well prepared, so he immediately took out his USB flash drive and projected its contents. All of them saw Carol with a big belly standing there in the video and Kate holding a rabbit. Kate was wearing a set of old fluffy pajamas and was half a meter away from Carol. Suddenly, Carol fell on her back and rolled down the stairs. The video was very clear. Kate indeed did not even touch Carol at all. Carol was left shocked. It was impossible to understand that the Cooper family didn't even bother to monitor the whole video. What was going on? Where did the video come from? Also, when James saw the video, he turned even more perplexed than Carol. He asked shockingly, "What's this? I mean, Kate didn't push Carol at all." James turned to Carol and slapped her hard. He screamed, "What happened?" Carol covered her face. She was unable to argue. In a frightened tone, she finally gasped, I don't know, I'm so confused, I don't remember anything." Albert's patience was over. He asked in a pinching way, "Oh, you don't remember anything? Really? Okay, let me remember it for you." He took out a document from the file and threw it at Carol's face. "Your miscarriage was premeditated, and both of your hemorrhages during the operation were fake." It was righteously reported in the documents that a doctor received money to help Carol fabricate the medical records. Carol was now left with no defense. No matter how much Carol wanted to protect herself, she had to now accept the truth. Finally, it was proved that Kate was no culprit. She didn't do anything wrong. Kate was not a bad child. James felt like he was about to vomit blood. He never imagined Carol would do something like this. However, there was still something that James couldn't comprehend about the period following his bankruptcy. "Carol, you've been wanting to leave me for so long, right?" He confirmed with those blazing eyes and clenched teeth. "You used Kate's name to get rid of the child in your womb because you couldn't leave me if it was born, correct?" He stated the facts. But Carol still refused to admit it all. She shook her head in denial and wiped her tears. James turned super annoyed in his heart. He wanted to make chaos. But then, after a little thought, he decided not to. Rather, he pretended to be deceived. "You poisonous woman! You've been lying to me for such a long time just so I could have all these misunderstandings about Kate!" he cried. "Kate, it's all Dad's fault. Dad was deceived by the person he trusted the most," he added. Travis then took out a few more documents and projected them on the screen. They were Carolina's death certificate and James's marriage certificate, which clearly showed that Carolina died in March, and James married Carol at the end of March. Then there was a photo, too, that was secretly taken by some neighbor at that time. It had Kate kneeling in the snow in her pajamas. She was buried by the snow and only a little bit of her back was exposed, but one could easily identify her. It was a chill in James's heart, but unlike him, everyone else couldn't help but cover their mouths in shock. In just a few lines of the case reports, it was clear how badly Kate was treated at that time. Everyone was somewhere angry at James. The child was seriously hurt and was sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. When Catherine saw this medical report, she almost fainted from distress. It's not called being careless, it's a real death blow. Such a snowy day, and he made the child kneel in the snow. The little girl got frostbite. Is he even a human? I think he is a beast. He doesn't even deserve to be called a father, she cried. Continue. Albert sneered at Travis. Travis released yet another piece of evidence. An officially sealed arrest warrant explaining, the Cooper group detected a large amount of smuggling a year ago that resulted in the killings of 3 people. The public never gave up on the investigation and has now obtained a shred of evidence and a number 1 suspect, James. He's officially wanted. In other words, the Cooper family wasn't bankrupted by the Crook family's revenge at all. They had it coming their way. James slumped onto the ground. He knew that now everything was beyond salvation. It's over! It's over! He cried. Everyone was stunned by the truth. Everyone started gossiping about James marrying another woman just 1 month after his wife's death. Where the new wife kept abusing his daughter, he kept ignoring it. The new wife framed his daughter and he punished her with frostbite. They both deliberately released rumors and blamed Kate for all their faults. It was so hard to understand how could such a vicious father exist in this world. Those who had children couldn't help but hug their children. They cursed James. This kind of person doesn't deserve to live in this world. Garbage! Call the police and arrest him! Yelled someone. James, on hearing the alarm, started panicking. He turned worried and therefore started to rush up just to catch Kate. He planned to blackmail everyone by putting Kate on a knife if someone tried to arrest him. But then only Albert lifted his foot and kicked him away before he could get his hands on Kate. Several bodyguards in black stepped forward, grabbed James and Carol by their collars, and dragged them out like dead dogs. Where Carol now had no choice but to pretend to be wronged and cry, James kept yelling, Kate was raised by me. Without me she would never be able to survive. Even if I treated her that way for more than 8 years, you all can't deny the very fact that she was born to me. Your Crook family is ungrateful. Kate wasn't born by you. Albert spoke up. James was taken aback for a moment. What? What do you mean? He turned anxious. Albert, while being condescending, looked at James coldly. The blood DNA test results show that you are not Kate's biological father, Albert revealed. James's mind went to a bang. And it was majorly because his only way out was also blocked by now. The shock for him not being the father was giant. He started screaming. Impossible! Impossible! James had forgotten how much he wished that there'd be no such child as Kate, as now all he wished was to just confirm his and her father-daughter relation. Though, he somewhere knew that his begging was useless. On the other hand, Kate stood quietly among the crowd. She was so quiet, as if she was standing outside the whirlpool, making it seem hurtful to the Crook family. This was when a bodyguard took off his sock and stuffed it into James's mouth. The bodyguard had been with the Crook family for many years, and he had lost all feelings for the Main family. Filled with righteous indignation, he just wanted to punch James in the nose indefinitely. The world was instantly quiet. While James murmured unwillingly, several police cars waited for him outside the mansion. While James was thrown out and handcuffed by the policeman, Carol was taken away on the charge of intentionally spreading rumors after her failed attempt of running away. Mass smuggling and killing of 3 people. What awaited James was at least 10 years of life imprisonment or a potential death penalty. James was in despair. He couldn't figure out which step of his went wrong. If Carolina was treated well from the beginning, wouldn't he be a famous son-in-law by now? Or maybe if he had been kinder to Kate from the beginning, he'd be a father to a rich grandchild of the Crook family. These were just the possibilities. He never knew that Carolina was the daughter of the Crook family. If he had known earlier, he could have been better to both Carolina and Kate. As James thought about it, his eyes turned red, and he suddenly started shouting at Carol. He screamed, "It's all your fault, you bastard! I'll kill you!" Carol was caught off guard and was hit hard by James on the frame of the car. She screamed. Blood soon oozed from her head. She slumped down on the seat, and Carol got kicked to death by James. Carol's ghost slowly floated up off her body with a dazed expression. Soon it realized that she was dead. It started to scream. She couldn't die. She was so beautiful. Just now she was thinking of changing her complete name after getting released from detention. She was just now thinking of marrying a rich man and becoming the wife. To be kicked to death by James in the blink of an eye was too aggrieved even for Carol. Carol's ghost screamed and rushed towards James. Besides, in the mansion everyone sighed endlessly in despair as the mansion was now filled with bad breaths. After all, a tiger's poison doesn't eat its offspring. James was just too bad to be a human. Catherine hugged Kate. Choked with sobs, she said, "Kate, let's go back." No one was no longer in the mood to hold the birthday party. Everyone looked at Kate sympathetically. Now the truth had come to light, and thinking of the previous malicious speculation, they were all a little embarrassed. However, Kate, even after being in the very center of this storm, smiled sweetly and exclaimed, "Does Grandma love Kate? It's okay, Grandma. Kate is healed now." Kate grinned innocently. She was the one who was hurt the most, and yet she was the first one to comfort others. This kid was just too kind. Seeing this, Catherine's eyes turned red. Kate picked up her little rabbit and Exie in her arms and started to stroke Catherine's head. She extended, "Grandma, don't cry." Catherine was so full of tears and empathy that she couldn't help but just cry. Albert and others meanwhile asked Catherine to go back to her room and rest as she was already ill. Albert then picked up Kate. He asked in a low voice, "Is Kate sad?" Originally he didn't want to reveal that James was not Kate's biological father on Kate's birthday itself, but some things had to be dealt with quickly and thoroughly, just so there was no chance of a counterattack. And now the only thing that made him hesitate was Kate's reaction. But Kate rather shook her head in refusal. "I'm not sad, Uncle. It's not Kate who did the wrong thing, right? Dad did the wrong thing, so it's Dad who should be sad." Albert was startled after listening to the little girl. Although she was very young, she seemed to know everything. Albert's heart softened. He touched Kate's small head with utter love. In the future, he would never let her suffer any more harm. As for being the person who let James and Carol be who they were, Albert looked up sneeringly. At this moment, Jennifer was already watching everything out of her window. James and Carol were already driven away, and all the misunderstandings were resolved. But didn't know why, but Jennifer couldn't be happy at all. This was the moment when she saw Albert sneering from a distance. She trembled in her heart. She had let James and Carol in as she didn't know the truth before. Suddenly, with a click of a sound, the door pushed open. Harry walked in. With a dull, cold face, he called out in a muffled voice, "Come out!" Jennifer shifted towards Jane immediately. "No, I won't go out," she replied. She knew what Harry was going to say, so she hugged Jane tightly. She still believed that Harry would never say the word divorce in front of the children. But Harry confronted, "How long are you going to make trouble?" Jennifer's eyes turned red all of a sudden. "I made a fuss? How did I make a fuss? Isn't everything I do for you and my child? How dare you accuse me now? Have you ever talked to Jane? Do you know how pitiful she is? You are the father. Why don't you protect your daughter?" Jennifer cleverly changed the subject and vigorously started accusing Harry. But instead, Harry threw the divorce agreement on the table. "Go get divorced then." He left without looking back. Jennifer was stunned. "What did you say?" She threw the pillow and screamed, "I won't agree to a divorce, never," she continued to scream. Hannah happened to come in. She saw all of it, all confused. She expressed, "Oh, how can this man be so unworthy of being a father and a husband? He is divorcing his wife for the sake of his niece, but is not ready to support his wife and daughter. How can there be such a man? Really? And that Kate. She just came back and became a cause of my daughter and son-in-law's divorce." Jennifer shouted, "Stop talking! You get out! You go back to your own home!" Hannah used to always come to the Crooks mansion and stayed there for a few days, enjoying the noble feeling of being served by many servants. However, she'd been there only for half a night by now. So of course she refused to leave. "Hey, Jennifer, calm down. If you have something to say, talk to Harry. If it doesn't work out, let's find a way to make things better," she explained. With fuming eyes, Jennifer pushed Hannah out and closed the door with a bang. But the old woman kept knocking on the door. "Jennifer, why are you still losing your temper with me?" she yelled from outside. The birthday party could no longer be held. Still, Antonio held his wineglass and smiled softly. Thank you all for your kindness. Thank you for coming to Kate's 9th birthday party. Kate is the daughter of my younger sister Carolina. Although Carolina is gone, we'll never let Kate suffer any grievances. Today we want to happily tell everyone that Kate's surname is officially a crook. Thank you again, everyone. Everyone quickly agreed, and soon left the crook's mansion. One could hear them talking in a low voice as they walked out. Being surrounded by the 8 big brothers and uncles of the Crook family. I have to say, Miss Kate is enviable, someone uttered. Yeah, that's the real little princess, sighed someone else. Sarah grabbed her mother's clothes while thinking of Kate's sparkle in the starry sky dress. She was a little envious, it was more of a jealousy. She also wanted many powerful and handsome uncles like the Crook brothers. At this time, Sarah's mother suddenly discovered that there were still some people in the living room on the first floor. Seeing an acquaintance rushing in, she quickly grabbed him and asked, Jeffrey, what's the matter? Montesquieu is here. You know, the famous painter and Mason's old friend, Jeffrey explained. When Sarah's mother heard this, her eyes lit up immediately. Sarah's father immediately went to say hello, and the family turned back again. Sarah started sniffing around. Mom, it's my fault. I was just too scared, and I remembered wrongly. Sarah apologized. Sarah's mother wanted to say something, but in the end, she just said, I don't blame you. How wrong can you be, kid? It was a good thing to be jealous, which showed that you were self-motivated. People who don't know how to be jealous can never make progress. Sarah's mother thought that it was enough to cover up her little thoughts, but Sarah had also done a good job in this aspect. Let's go, Mom will take you there. Don't you like an oil painting the most? Montesquieu is here. This is your chance, she exclaimed. Mr. Quare was detached from the world, and it was difficult for him to meet people. He rarely used to attend this kind of party. But today he came. Sarah's mother felt lucky. If Sarah could be taken in by Montes and be accepted as a student, others would be envious of her and she could hold her head up for a whole year. Her eyes lit up. She quickly asked, Is it the most powerful and authoritative inheritor of intangible cultural heritage who has been certified by the official department Montes, the best painter in the world with expertise in modern art? Sarah's oil paintings were once selected for judging by the children group of the Academy of American Painting. The Academy of American Painting was committed to implementing the National Art Development Project. The general provincial champions weren't selected for the Academy of American Painting. It showed how difficult it was. But Sarah was praised by her mother. Also, she was full of confidence. This was why she felt that even being among so many people, she was the child with the most talent in painting. She is believed to be spotted by Montes. At this time on the second floor of Crook's house, Mason patted Kate's small shoulder. Grandpa will introduce you to an old friend, okay? He said gently. Kate nodded. Okay. The little girl had such an immature face, yet she nodded solemnly like a little adult. This amused Catherine. In the hall on the first floor where the Crook family entertained guests, people who had studied American paintings gathered around while chatting with the old man with a smile on their faces. It's really hard to meet Montesquieu. What an honor, someone praised. Yes. Montesquieu rarely comes out of the mountain. Is Montesquieu the judge who is going to participate in the second conference of traditional American painting? Another person asked. The old man was wearing a green shirt. He smiled and shook his head. Oh, I'm old. I can't be a review tutor. But this time I have come out to accept a young apprentice. Montes was in a good mood. After seeing the painting that Mason sent him, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep for 2 days. Kate's paintings were so spiritual. He hasn't seen such a gifted child for decades. So Mason asked him if he would accept Kate as an apprentice. Montes's words were like a bomb, and therefore it made everyone's eyes wide open. Holy crap! Montesquieu wants to take in disciples. They all sighed. Who was it? Everyone was envious. They couldn't help getting excited. Everyone secretly started guessing who'd it be. At this moment, Sarah's mother came in with Sarah. Everyone's eyes immediately fell on Sarah. Sarah was also quite famous in their circle. At such a young age, her oil paintings were included in the Academy of American Painting. In the line with a little apprentice that Montesquieu just said, If someone whom Montesquieu was most likely to accept as an apprentice, it was Sarah. All of a sudden, everyone laughed and exchanged greetings with Sarah and Sarah's mother. Sarah lowered her head obediently and quietly established her image as this uprightly famous and noble girl. Just thinking of the scene where she was accepted as Montes's disciple, Sarah couldn't help but feel proud. Sarah's mother pretended to be casual, therefore asked, "Montesquieu, just now everyone heard that you are accepting a young apprentice. Everyone is very curious. Which child is so lucky to be favored by you?" Montesquieu smiled and said, "It's a child with bright colors and a weird and strange imagination. This is the best seedling I have seen in the past few decades." Sarah's mother turned ecstatic as she heard that because Sarah used bright colors in her paintings. Also, she too thought that Sarah had a rich imagination and was very dazzling. Everyone was still in suspense and was wondering who that lucky kid would be. Though they all were thinking of Sarah, the reality turned out to be in Kate's favor. How would Sarah's mother react to it was a hitting question. Sarah was sensitive to her mother's happiness and was happy from the bottom of her heart. So she took a deep breath, summoned up her courage, and introduced herself to Montesquieu. "Mr. Queer, hello, I'm Sarah. I like your paintings very much. You are my idol." Only then did Montesquieu realize that there was another child there. He nodded and said, "Okay, thank you, kid." Montesquieu used to be detached from the outside world and didn't like socializing or anything. Still, he was very nice and approachable. Sarah was very happy. She thought Montesquieu liked her. She was about to say more to him, but then only Kate came downstairs after having changed her clothes. She was still holding a few paintings in her arms. Albert took her hand firmly and introduced in a low voice, "The old man is a teacher and a very famous painter, Montes." Kate nodded, walked up to him, raised her head and excitedly said, "Teacher." Montesquieu was stunned for a moment, then laughed and said, "Okay, Kate." A child like Kate would have usually called him Grandpa, but the little girl called him a teacher with a serious face on. This made Montesquieu feel her to be cute and a little bit reckless. He couldn't help but be amused. He raised his hand and touched the small scar on Kate's head. "How old are you?" he asked. Kate paused and quietly glanced at the old man with her small eyes. She had just celebrated her 9th birthday today, and he came to her party. How could someone not guess her age by now? Kate thought for a while and then replied obediently, "Teacher, I celebrated my 9th birthday today, so I am 9 years old." Montesquieu went blank, as now he felt foolish. He jokingly said, Yes, you see, the teacher is stupid." Kate rolled her eyes with a smile and quickly comforted him. "It's okay, adults sometimes become stupid. You don't have to feel bad about it." She probably wanted to say that sometimes she'd also be stupid. The little girl spoke quite clearly. However, it might feel to many as if she was not taught well or she didn't have much vocabulary before, and that she was not very familiar with language logic and accuracy. But on the contrary, Montesquieu thought her to be innocent and cute. He liked her even more by now. Sarah was standing aside. She felt like it was Kate who stole her limelight. She turned really unhappy. Meanwhile, Sarah's mother was also feeling otherwise. Seeing that Kate was holding a few scrolls in her hand, she was even more speechless. She said to herself, "What a bad luck." Meanwhile, Mason smiled brightly and asked Montes, "Old friend, how about sitting on the 2nd floor?" Montesquieu couldn't wait to see Kate's other paintings, so he nodded. Okay. Sarah was left stunned. What should she do? She was wishing that Montes was here for her. Suddenly, Sarah anxiously called him out. "Mr. Queer, what about me?" Montesquieu looked at her in surprise. "You're also very good, but I am busy right now," he replied. The Crook family then took Montesquieu to the 2nd floor. Both Sarah and her mother were left astonished and worried, as now Sarah had lost her chance that too because of Kate. Sarah's mother was fuming in her heart, but she had to endure it. Gold always shined. The Crook family indeed was powerful. But who was Montesquieu? It was not like the rich could hire him to be a teacher. Sarah's mother comforted Sarah. She assured her that she was a good girl and that she should wait for the right chance to come just to shine even brighter. However, the mother-daughter never expected themselves to wait until the end of time. Inside the study room that was on the 2nd floor of the Crook family villa, Kate sat upright on the sofa, secretly looking at the old man in front of her. Mason said, "Kate, this is the most powerful master in the field of painting in our country, and his name is Montesquieu." Yet, Kate again subjected him to a teacher. The old man kind of liked this well-behaved child. He asked, "Kate, did you draw all these paintings?" Kate nodded, "Yeah." He again asked, "Kate, can you tell me about these paintings?" Her face immediately lit up. She rested down all relaxed by the table, and began to talk about her fantasy world very seriously. Sometime after, when Albert came over, he saw two old ones and a young one resting by the table looking at the paintings. The little milk ball was blabbering, and the two old men were fascinated by it, laughing from time to time. Albert's face immediately softened. He could not believe how a small child could only be friends with two old men. Meanwhile, on the first floor, Sarah and her mother were sitting on the sofa in the hall. Both of them were waiting for Mr. Queer. This was when Travis came down and told everyone to go back, as Montesquieu would not come down again. Everyone was left disappointed. Sarah's family had to leave too, otherwise they'd appear very rude. Sarah's mother was not reconciled. She thought that Sarah would be accepted as an apprentice by Montesquieu, but now it seemed that she was not. However, she was unable to admit it. She took away Sarah and continued to wait in the car outside, right at Crook Mansion's gate. As a result, she heard two people walking past discussing in a low voice. Is Sarah's mother still waiting inside? Hey, she thought that Montes was here to accept Sarah. With all due respect, Sarah is not qualified at all. In the car, Sarah's mother was getting raged up as she heard this. What did it mean that Sarah was not qualified? However, she couldn't also help worrying about Montesquieu being on the second floor for so long. Maybe the Crook family wanted to find a teacher for Kate. Although Kate had no talent, she had a grandfather who loved her immensely. What if the money was used to force Montesquieu to accept Kate as his apprentice? Sarah's mother had already begun to feel that all of it was unfair. It was already past 11 o'clock at night, and Kate sent the teacher out. The little girl was very happy. She seemed to have found a good friend and a teacher. Although there was a big age difference in their age, Kate had already recognized this new old friend. Well, Grandpa was right. They indeed were old friends. Kate waved her hands and said, "Old friend, take your time." Montesquieu immediately looked at the little munchkin in front of him. He didn't expect to accept such a spirited little apprentice when he came there, and now he was leaving all elated. So he waved his hand back and called out, "Goodbye, little friend." An old man and a child looked very happy together. After getting into the car, Montesquieu couldn't help looking at the photos on his phone. They were Kate's paintings with her amazing imagination. This was when he looked at a pair of amusement park, in which the little girl who was the protagonist was holding the hand of an adult. A grandma was greeting her, and a sister asking her to play on the slide was a rainbow. The sun was a Ferris wheel, with a few melted ice creams hanging on it. Everything in that amusement park was very clear, except that the person Kate was leading in the white shadow seemed to be a sinister energy that was incompatible with everything around her. This was the only thing Montesquieu couldn't understand in all the paintings. Also, Kate didn't explain it either. Anyways, Montesquieu put those paintings on his bib account and praised them without hesitation. He appreciated the most beautiful and splendid little painter in the spiritual world. He never used to praise others. All he could praise were those old antique calligraphy and paintings that had already entered the museum. But that night, the American painting circle exploded. Everyone started asking about the painter of those paintings. As soon as the car drove out of the mansion, someone waved in front. The driver slowed down. "Montesquieu! It seemed like someone was looking for us?" Montesquieu looked up and saw Sarah's mother talking to Sarah with a big smile on her face. He couldn't help but frown. Out of self-cultivation, Montesquieu got out of the car and asked, "Who are you?" When Sarah's mother saw Montesquieu getting out of the car in person, she felt ecstatic. She hurriedly said, "Montesquieu, do you still remember us? This is Sarah. The one who has selected first place in the American Painting Children's Group before Sarah. You must have remembered her, right?" Who knew that Montesquieu had a blank face? Which Sarah? Sarah's mother's expression turned blank, and she was left speechless. The best painter in the whole world didn't even remember the name of her daughter. Since Sarah's artwork was selected for the American Painting Children's Group, Her mother felt a sense of pride, and would often mention it unintentionally in front of others. She believed that Sarah had become quite famous within their family, and was certain that the Academy of American Painting would remember her. However, to their surprise, Montes seemed to have no recollection of Sarah or her work. Sarah's mother became embarrassed, realizing that Sarah was just a child, and impatiently asked, "Mr. Queer, weren't you here to recruit students?" Montes responded, "Yes, what's the matter?" Sarah asked, "Then why haven't you chosen me?" Montes remained silent, offering no response. Sarah's mother felt a little embarrassed. Montes spoke euphemistically, saying, "Sorry, kid, I've already accepted a student." Sarah's mother's heart skipped a beat, and she smiled, saying, "Oh, you're accepting Miss Kate, right?" Montes nodded and couldn't help but smile when talking about Kate. Yes, Kate is a very talented child. After finishing his words, he nodded to both of them, got into his car, and left. Sarah's mother couldn't accept this significant disappointment, and couldn't help but complain. The Crook family spent money. Sarah was sad as she thought that Kate was the reason she wasn't chosen by Montes. She went after crying. She hated Kate. Mr. Queer had come to accept her as a student, but Kate took her place. Sarah's mother hurriedly went after her. After seeing off the teacher and grandfather, Kate went back to her room to wash up and change into pajamas. The fluffy pink pajamas, with 2 long rabbit ears on the hat, made the little cutie look adorable. Catherine kindly touched her forehead and said, "Would you like your grandma to sleep with you, Kate?" Kate grabbed the quilt and shook her head. "Thank you, Grandma, but I can sleep by myself." Catherine gently rubbed Kate's soft hair. This child was so sensible it made people feel fond of her. Catherine said, "If you need anything, just ring the bell and call for Grandma." Kate nodded and said goodnight to Catherine obediently, and watched her leave the room. Keizo appeared and leaned to one side and made a sound. He kept thinking about that old man in the study. He took away his little apprentice. Kazo said to Kate, "Hey little kid, Master will teach you spells. You know spells, right? You can throw a fireball with a whoosh. No, it's okay to teach you how to catch ghosts, but you have to open your eyes first. You can see me after opening your eyes." Kate turned her head. "I don't want to learn. I want to learn how to draw from my old friend and teacher. That's what kids should do." Kazo hooted, "What should kids do?" Kate snapped her fingers, eat, sleep, draw, and play with Exie. Kate's room was connected to the next room, which was transformed into a tropical rainforest scene, and Exie was placed inside. The space was quite extensive, separated from Kate's room by a fenced door. Exie, who was about to fall asleep, immediately opened his eyes, tilted his head, and exclaimed, "Play with Exie." Kate giggled and rushed to the bed as if she had been caught. "Hey, I'm dead." Exie squawked. Keizo's mouth twitched. If she had noticed that her bones were so extraordinary, she would have been a perfect candidate for alchemy. Ah well, if he hadn't agreed to Carolina, he wouldn't be here dealing with this brat. Kazo touched his nose and said, "Little kid, do you remember what your mother told you when you were up in the sky?" That day he entrusted Carolina with a dream. In the dream, Carolina asked Kate to take care of Grandma and leave when the time was right. As a result, Kate cried uncontrollably. He had no choice but to pretend to be Carolina and play with her on the white clouds and rainbows for a long time to calm her down. At the same time, he didn't forget to say a few nice words to himself. "Kate, your master is a good man. You should learn from him. If you learn the skills, you can see your mother often," he uttered. Kate blinked her eyes and said while curious, "Master, it was you who accompanied me on the rainbow slide in my dream, not my mother." Keizo was taken aback. "How do you know?" Kate glanced at him. "Master is so silly. Master's feet are big, but my mother's feet weren't that big." Keizo was feeling stupid and smiled. Can it be true? Would he make such a basic mistake? Just when he thought Kate would be difficult to handle, she suddenly asked, "Master, can I see my mother after I learn the skills?" She lay down neatly. Her small body was straight, and held one end of the quilt with her small hands, wearing a serious expression. Kazo replied, "Well, of course you can." Kate sat up again. "Okay, then I'll learn from you, Master." As it turned out, Keizo disappeared after leaving the red string bracelet that day, and Kate had worried deeply. But now, the little one was quite generous and didn't hold any anger against him. Keizo was a bit surprised. He suddenly agreed to teach her. but he hadn't figured out how to go about it yet. He pondered for a moment and decided to play around for now. He said, "Kate, let's start by learning how to open the third eye." Keizo suggested, "The third eye is the inner eye that everyone is born with, but not everyone can open it," he added. "With the third eye open, you can see things ordinary people can't. That's why some babies cry inexplicably, while others aren't affected at all. However, as babies grow up, the third eye soon closes or even disappears, but some people are special, and their third eye remains, even though they can't open it." He further explained, "Your third eye is still there, and once you open it you can see Master," Kazo pointed out. Kate widened her eyes and quickly touched her forehead. She said, "Please don't let Kate open it. Kate doesn't want to have 3 eyes. I'll look so ugly like a beast." Keizo replied, "If the beast hears this, he'll be furious." He further said, "The third eye won't appear visibly. It's hidden within your eyes." Kate breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good, that's fine with me now." Keizo continued, "Come on, silently recite the words with me. Focus your breath on your lower abdomen, concentrate on your eyes, and let's go." Kate said obediently to herself, "Calm down my lower abdomen, focus on my eyes, and let's go." A mischievous glint appeared in Kazo's eyes. "I'm squeezing my belly hard, about to release a big fart." Kate followed along, "Squeeze your belly hard and let out a big stinky fart." As she spoke, she acted out the procedure as if it came naturally. Sure enough, a fart popped out with a pop. Kazo snorted and nearly busted out laughing. This little kid was so entertaining and so much fun. However, Kate still had her eyes closed and asked, "Master, why can't I see anything?" "Opening the third eye isn't that easy. The most talented person I've ever met took 7 to 49 days, Keizo replied. At that moment, Kate suddenly opened her eyes. There was a flash of purple light in her eyes, and she saw a white figure suddenly appear in the room. He leaned against the cabinet, picking up his ears. "So don't worry. Master has calculated that it will take at least 7 to 49 days for your talent to develop fully." As he spoke, he put his finger, which had just been picking his ears, to his nose and sniffed it. Kate blinked and asked, "Master, why are you smelling earwax?" Keizo smirked. "Nonsense, how could Master? Wait, did you see me?" Keizo shockingly exclaimed as he couldn't believe it. She only recited the words once. How could she succeed? This wasn't just extraordinary talent. This was freakish talent. Kate widened her eyes and looked around. Wow, the world had become so much clearer. The desk lamp had a halo of light, and a ladyfly silently entered its glow. The sweet cherry blossom tree outside the window was hosting a party, and a few ants scurried around with cake crumbs on their 6 legs. There was also a spider hanging by the window, staring intently at her. Kate became silent. The spider poked half of its head inside. There was a strange gleam in its eyes as it stared intently at Kate. He asked, "Can you see me? Are you afraid of me?" Kate quickly grabbed the quilt and covered her head, shouting, "Master, the spider was so ugly." The ghostly figure was perplexed. Kazo finally believed it this time. This ghostly figure saw a wandering ghost who had just passed by. He saw that the ghost's power was fragile and would disappear within 2 days, so he ignored it. Who knew that Kate would see it? A dark glimmer appeared in Kazo's eyes, and he suddenly became excited. Heavens, what an incredible little friend he had taken in. "Little kid, let Master see how much potential you have. Let's capture this ugly ghost." The ghostly figure became furious. "You can insult my character, but not my appearance." With a shrill cry, she lunged forward. Keizo grabbed her hand and said, "My dear Kate, silently recite the words to Master, and don't pay attention to those who are scary. With one hand, send them running." Kate followed Kazo and recited, "If confused, don't bite. With one hand, send them running. Why bite?" The little kid couldn't figure it out. But by then, Kazo had already let go of his grip, and the ghostly figure flew away from Kate due to inertia. Kate instinctively raised her hand, and with a swoosh sound, the ghostly figure was flung far away. With quick reflexes, Kazo grabbed the ghostly figure by the hair and pulled her back. "Great job, little Kate is amazing," said the female ghost with excitement. Kate innocently looked at her hands. "What's wrong with my little hands? Do they look strange to you?" she asked. Keizo rolled his eyes and replied, "Come on, let's continue." Life was unpredictable, and unexpected things happen all the time. Kate, being a good student, was influenced by her mischievous and eccentric master. She repeated, "Life was unpredictable, and unexpected things happened all the time." Kazo playfully tossed the female ghost aside. As a result, the female ghost inflated like a balloon, and Kate couldn't help but let out a fart and flew away. Kate was so surprised that she quickly covered her little butt. The female ghost remained speechless. Kate questioned, "Can't we just let her pass by without causing so much trouble? Should we teach her a lesson on the spot?" Keizo's eyes gleamed darkly, never expecting to have stumbled upon a valuable find. He finally understood why the painter Quera was so excited when he accepted Kate as a student. Keizo raised his hand and a tiny gourd appeared out of thin air. It was about the size of a fingernail and it hung from the red string on Kate's wrist. He said, "This is a soul gourd. You could use it to capture lonely wandering spirits, fierce ghosts, and evil spirits. In the future, you would use this soul gourd to assist me in my tasks, understand?" Kazo felt relieved and realized that his little apprentice was worth it. Kate stared at the tiny gourd and asked, "Master, why did you accept me as your disciple?" Keizo didn't answer immediately. Instead, he patted on Kate's head and replied casually, "Don't ask too many questions, kid." Kate pursed her lips and turned to look at the female ghost. She seemed to find her appearance unattractive and covered her eyes with one hand, peeking at her through the gaps between her fingers. "Who are you and why did you look so ugly?" she asked bluntly. Despite her struggles, the female ghost couldn't break free. She replied in a despondent tone, "I used to work as a laborer at your second uncle's construction site. My name is Tina. I guess that was the retribution for the bad things I did." Kate was taken aback. "Second uncle?" Her little face immediately turned serious, and she furrowed her brow solemnly. "What bad things did you do to my second uncle?" The female ghost couldn't understand why, but her words seemed to defy her intentions as she started to explain. 6 years ago, your second aunt offered me $20,000 to put some chemicals in your second uncle's tea, and I did as she asked. Right after I received the money, a large slab fell from the roof of the construction site and crushed me to death. She had died unjustly, and she still felt unlucky. She had been crushed to death right after receiving a large sum of money. Kate was puzzled. Why would Tina add chemicals to his uncle's tea? And why did she die right after receiving the money? Kaizo narrowed his eyes and remarked casually, "Kids should go to bed early and not chat so much." With that, he stuffed the female ghost into the small gourd. The red string emitted a faint red light and quickly disappeared into Kate's wrist. Kate lay down again, let out a yawn, and fell into a deep sleep. Exie tilted his head and started speaking repetitively, "Aunt, add some salt." That night, some people slept soundly, while others couldn't sleep at all. Jennifer lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. When Jane was born, her mother inadvertently mentioned their plan to drug Harry during a conversation. Unfortunately, Harry overheard it. At that time, Harry had mentioned divorce, but how could Jennifer agree? She had just given birth to Jane, and she couldn't bear to divorce and waste all the effort she had put into having a child. Divorcing would mean that everything she had worked hard for would go to waste. So all these years she had insisted that Harry misunderstood, and her mother was only joking and speaking nonsense. But Harry had found Albert and discovered that the mysterious death of Tina, the worker who helped with the drugging, was suspicious. These thoughts bothered Jennifer even more. Fortunately, Tina died without leaving any trace. After so many years, Jennifer couldn't uncover anything even if she tried. Unless Tina could come back to life. But that was impossible. Jennifer didn't want a divorce. Her feelings were genuine, and she couldn't bear to part with her 2 children. So why did Harry want a divorce? Jennifer didn't think there was anything wrong with herself. She believed that Kate's arrival had disrupted the balance. Everything had been fine before, but things had changed since Kate came along. She murmured, "What a troublesome kid." Jennifer didn't like her little niece at all. A thought even crossed her mind of getting rid of Kate. The very next day, it was already 9 o'clock when Kate woke up. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, she leaned on the balcony, observing Mason watering the flowers downstairs. "Grandpa, good morning." Kate grabbed the railing and poked her head out. Mason immediately felt relieved and smiled. "Good morning, Kate." "Oh, but don't poke your head out. It's dangerous. Come downstairs for breakfast." Kate hummed and was about to pull her head back in, but she found herself stuck. Kate was puzzled and she tried to move left and right. Mason asked, "Hey, how did he manage to get in there in the first place?" So the little troublemaker held onto the railing, her face filled with confusion. "Grandpa." Mason, looking up at her, felt his heart tighten. "What's wrong?" he asked. Kate blinked innocently and said, "I think I'm stuck, Grandpa." Mason's expression turned blank. When everyone woke up early in the morning, they discovered that Kate had gotten stuck on the railing. The uncles couldn't help but burst into laughter, finding the situation amusing. Brent laughed uncontrollably and exclaimed, "So stupid," while Kate looked a bit uneasy. "Don't laugh." Kate glared at Brent. Albert pressed his fist against his lips, coughed lightly, and couldn't hide the smile in his eyes. Although Kate was in a bit of a miserable state, they were genuinely worried about her, but that didn't stop them from finding it funny. Only Catherine was genuinely concerned and scolded. "Brent, what are you all laughing at? Get Kate out quickly." Harry quickly offered, "I'll call 911 right away." Kate was taken aback and immediately objected. "No, Uncle Harry, don't call them." She knew about 911. When she was in New York, there was a fire in the neighborhood, and she saw the policeman bravely rushing into the fire. From that moment on, the firefighter became her idol, like a superhero who saved the world. She didn't want her idol to see her in such a stupid situation. Catherine, who was unaware of Kate's thoughts, said anxiously, "Kate, please be good. This is very dangerous. The policeman will come and save you, okay?" She couldn't ever know that such a young child already had a strong sense of self-esteem. Kate insisted to Catherine, "Grandma, I can get out by myself. Just wait for me." She took a deep breath and pulled hard. There was a bang on her little head, and it hurt a little. Keizo sighed and covered his face. Hey, don't do that. It looks silly," he said. "Try breaking the iron railing," he suggested. Kate looked at him confused. Could she break it? Keizo leaned on the railing, leisurely observing the little girl's head stuck in it. He again said in a sarcastic tone, "Or do you think the red bracelet your master gave you is for a show?" Kate looked at the red string on her wrist. Meanwhile, Jennifer stood at the door and watched coldly. How could she get stuck like that? This kid is truly foolish. Seeing the other members of the Crook family quickly reacting, with some fetching a ladder and others getting an air cushion, Jennifer felt a pang of discomfort. Was it really necessary to be so worried about Kate being stuck on the second floor? Even if she fell, there was a lawn full of soft grass beneath. She wouldn't die from it. She couldn't help but wonder why she hadn't realized before that the Crook family had such double standards, being so concerned for Kate and yet indifferent toward her daughter Jane. An oversized air cushion had been set up downstairs. Albert and Antonio stood downstairs with serious expressions. Antonio said, "A child's head is bigger than their body. Usually if the head can pass, the body can pass too. So all they needed to do was ask Kate to turn around and squeeze through the railing to get out of trouble." Albert's face grew cold and stern. "There's a risk of falling." Jacob, the other Crook brother, pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses, raised his eyebrows, and smiled. "If she falls from the second floor, the air cushion is so thick that she won't die." The other brothers glared at him. Jacob shrugged, but he had a point. The brothers shared their thoughts with Catherine, concerned that the old woman would be too frightened to bear it. Catherine hesitated. What if she hits her head when she falls? What if her head hits the ground first and her neck twists? What if she accidentally pokes her eyes with her hand? Antonio was helpless and gently persuaded her. "Mom, don't worry, how about this? The fifth brother will get the hydraulic pliers. Let's wait." Amidst the tension, no one noticed that Kate's little hands were firmly gripping the railing, desperately pulling and struggling. The red string on her wrist glimmered faintly and the iron railing suddenly bent under Kate's force. Kate quickly pulled her head back and escaped easily. She exclaimed happily, "I'm out." Everyone in the Crook family was dumbfounded and had a shocking reaction. They hadn't paid attention to how Kate had gotten out just now. Catherine was still holding Kate's arm with one hand, and they hadn't noticed anything unusual. As they looked at the bent iron railing, everyone in the Crook family was shocked. Albert, keeping a straight face, stood in front of Kate, blocking the bent railing. He boasted, Kate did a great job. Let's go have breakfast with Grandma." The rest of the family followed Kate, intentionally or unintentionally blocking the railing behind them. Jennifer looked suspicious. Jennifer wondered, how did Kate manage to get out? Why do these brothers of the Crook family appear to be wary of her? It wasn't her fault that Kate got involved, so can she be blamed? Jennifer felt uneasy in her heart, pursed her lips, and went downstairs. Albert then asked, "Kate, did you break this?" Kate blinked and nodded, "Yes." Suddenly Albert remembered the incident in the Cooper family's backyard, when Carol was about to hit Kate, and was then sent flying by Kate's little hand. At that time, he had kicked Carol, and he was also concerned about Kate, so he didn't pay much attention. Reflecting on it now, Albert and his brothers exchanged glances, and their expressions gradually became serious. Mason narrowed his eyes and said, "No one should speak of this matter. Kate, don't display your strength in front of others in the future, you understand?" Kate nodded innocently. She wondered, why were Grandpa and Uncles so tense? Isn't having great strength a good thing? She has great strength and she can help everyone together. Albert's eyes darkened, and he said in a low voice, "Is Sebastian here?" Sebastian entered holding a pair of large pliers and shouting, "Come here! Don't be afraid, Kate! Uncle Sebastian is here to save you!" Kate raised her head, held her neck, and said, "Uncle Sebastian, I'm already out." Sebastian was taken aback. Albert lowered his voice and said, "Sebastian, remove all the iron railings." He whispered about what had happened just now. Seeing the bent iron railing, Sebastian was stunned and said, "Okay, that's impressive. My Kate is amazing. So amazing. How about going to the construction site with Uncle Sebastian?" Kate replied, "Okay, okay." Everyone remained silent. Everyone thought that Kate was just speaking at the moment, and children quickly forget their promises. But after the meal, Kate wanted to go to the construction site with her Uncle Harry and Uncle Sebastian. Albert helplessly asked, "Why do you want to go there?" "Be good. The construction site is dangerous, and outsiders are not allowed in." Kate replied, "Kate isn't afraid, Kate is brave." Albert was taken aback for a moment, and everyone couldn't help but laugh and say, "Indeed, a child is still a child, even if they may know a lot. They're still a child." Uncle Sebastian, a tough guy, picked up Kate and exclaimed, "Yeah, Kate is brave. Let's go. Your uncle will take you for a ride." But Kate broke free from Sebastian and quickly ran upstairs, saying, "Wait for Kate. Kate needs to change clothes." The Crook family's 8 sons each had their jobs. The eldest uncle, Albert, was in charge of the entire group, and the third uncle, Antonio, went back to work for flight testing. Paul was heading to the film crew, and the rest of the family had set aside 2 days to celebrate Kate's birthday, but they had work to do at the moment. The quiet Uncle Harry and the energetic Uncle Sebastian were both at the construction site. They were referred to as contractors, but they were leading domestic infrastructure companies. Uncle Harry was an architectural designer and liked to spend time on the construction site. Uncle Sebastian was the director, responsible not only for overseeing all projects, but also for ensuring safety at the construction site. Kate changed into a cute yellow sundress, carried a cat backpack, and happily prepared to go downstairs when Jennifer approached her. She immediately stopped and said, "Good morning, Aunt Jennifer." Kate cautiously glanced at her second aunt. After opening her eyes, Kate suddenly noticed that her second aunt's face was covered in a brown liquid, with only her eyes exposed like a monster peering through the liquid. Kate found her second aunt terrifying. Jennifer held a bowl of hot noodle soup. Jane liked to sleep in even on school days. She would sleep until after 10 o'clock. Usually Jennifer would bring her breakfast upstairs and let her eat it. Afterwards, she would use a gentle voice to wake her and then take her to school. Upon seeing Kate greet her, Jennifer grunted and suddenly looked at the hot noodle soup in her hand. She wondered if she accidentally splashed it on Kate's face. Jennifer was startled by her thoughts, quickly composed herself, and walked over with a blank expression. Kate asked fearfully, "Aunt Jennifer, what's on your face?" Keizo floated nearby, crossed his arms and said, "It's the aura of death." Kate asked, "What's the aura of death?" Keizo narrowed his eyes. "It means she has killed someone before. Only those who have taken someone's life and witnessed their death firsthand would carry such a deathly aura." Kate hugged the rabbit tightly in her arms, feeling a bit anxious. She suddenly ran back to her room and took Exie with her. Kazo was surprised and asked, "What are you taking it for? This bird is very noisy. When it gets bored, it starts talking to itself and singing songs that people can't understand. For example, 'Poor people, let's learn to meow together.' Can you imagine how a bird learns to meow like a cat? What a disaster." "I don't feel relieved leaving Exie alone at home," Kate replied. "What if the second aunt cooks him?" The parrot fluffed up its green feathers and exclaimed, "There are monsters, don't worry." Kate patted its smooth feathers and said, "Let's go, let's go." Dressed in a pinafore dress, carrying a cat bag, and with 2 braids, the adorable little girl ran downstairs, holding a rabbit and a parrot in her arms. She looked incredibly cute from every angle. Catherine said with concern, "Take care of Kate. Especially you, Harry. Don't let Kate out of your sight." Harry replied in a muffled voice. "Understood, Mom." Sebastian urged, "Get in the car." He looked at the adorable little Kate and thought, "My heart melts for this little girl. With such a cute niece, of course she should be shown off." Jennifer was coaxing Jane to wake up, but Jane refused to get up. Jennifer stood on the balcony and looked down. When she saw Harry getting into the car with Kate in his arms, she frowned unhappily. Instead of holding his own daughter, he is holding his niece. Kate raised her head and met Jennifer's dark eyes. Startled, she immediately hugged Harry's neck. Harry followed Kate's gaze, glanced at Jennifer coldly, and then got into the car with Kate, closing the door behind them. They drove away. As Jennifer watched the car move farther and farther, a sudden sense of irritation filled her for no apparent reason. Harry worked for the National Infrastructure Construction Group as the chief architect, and Sebastian served as the general manager. They were both essential pillars of the company, one overseeing the designs and the other managing the construction sites. Currently, they are in charge of the infrastructure construction in the Guildford Development Zone. This project has been ongoing for 6 years. Jennifer couldn't understand why she felt inexplicably uneasy. The construction site where the accident occurred had already moved forward, and there was no trace of what happened. Unless someone could bring the dead back to life, that was impossible. Jennifer took a deep breath and said in a slow, gentle voice, "Wake up, little Princess Jane." After finally dropping Jane off at school, Jennifer returned home. In the living room on the first floor, Catherine was waiting for her. Catherine pointed to the sofa, gesturing for Jennifer to sit down. She had a cold expression on her face and said, "Jane has been going to school at this time every day. Have you ever thought about how she disturbs other children when they're trying to study?" "No, Mom, Jane is very well behaved," Jennifer replied. "Is that so? I've been exhausted all these years and have no energy left to take care of you now," Catherine sneered. After saying that, she got up and left with an ugly expression on her face. Catherine had just lectured her. As her mother-in-law, not her mother, why was she being lectured? Jennifer left the house with a bag full of grievances and went shopping with her mother. Kate followed her second uncle and Uncle Sebastian to the construction site. When she saw the under-construction stadium, she couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow! Uncle Harry, what is this?" Harry smiled and replied, "This is a new stadium." Kate leaned against the window, her eyes sparkling. "It's a beautiful stadium. Did Grandpa's giant watch fall and turn into this?" The stadium's main structure was circular, surrounded by auxiliary buildings in the shape of gears. Harry was taken aback and looked at Kate with delight. "You saw it too, Kate." He had been working on this design for a long time, drawing inspiration from mechanical watches. Kate tilted her head and asked, "Did you draw it, Uncle Harry?" Harry felt like he had found a kindred spirit. "Yes, I did," he replied. Kate immediately raised her thumb and pressed it against Harry's forehead. "You're awesome, Uncle Harry." Harry couldn't help but laugh. Kate's words touched his heart deeply. Harry laughed and repeated, "Grandpa's watch fell into the world. Yes, time may pass, but the spirit of sportsmanship is everlasting." Harry felt warmth in his heart as he looked at the little girl kicking her tiny feet. He wished he could hold her in his arms. Kazo opened his eyes, yawned lazily, and said, "We're here. Come on, Kate, I'll teach you how to control ghosts." He raised his hand, pulled out the female ghost from the gourd, and quickly drew a ghost symbol on her forehead with his index and middle fingers. "This is called a work talisman. After drawing it, the female ghost will obediently work for you," he explained. The female ghost pulled out early in the morning and sighed. Can you make any sense? Summoning ghosts to work in broad daylight is not a job, it's killing her again. Oh right, she's already dead, she died here. The female ghost gazed out the window with a distant look in her eyes. Kazo continued his teachings. Ordinary ghosts, wandering spirits, and vengeful ghosts generally can't appear during the day. Ghosts might show up, but they usually hide in elevator rooms or the gaps between buildings. Evil spirits, on the other hand, are terrifying and can walk freely in broad daylight. Kate nodded, only partially understanding. Kazo added, like this unattractive ant here, she can't do it. The moment the car door opens, she'll lose her wits. The unattractive ghost sighed and said, it's fine, she knows she's ugly. There is no need to mention it repeatedly. Kate widened her eyes, puzzled. Does it mean dying again? Kazo explained, so now I'll teach you the art of soul attachment. You need to attach this unattractive ghost lady to something so she can move around during the day. Usually the best prop is an umbrella, especially a black one. But that wouldn't involve moving the soul, and it would be inconvenient for Kate to carry an umbrella everywhere. Now let's find something, preferably light and able to catch the wind. As Kazo spoke, he unconsciously glanced at the parrot. Kate then looked at Exie and muttered, it's light, something that can fly. As if the parrot could sense it, it squawked loudly, don't pluck my feathers. Kazo looked at it and remained silent. Kate reassured, we won't pluck them. Harry, standing nearby, asked, what's going on? Kate unzipped her cat bag, unsure of what she was looking for. Suddenly her eyes lit up. Observing what she had grabbed, the female ghost bit her tongue. Kate grabbed a plastic bag. This plastic bag was previously used to hold the parrot's droppings, and she put it in the bag because she couldn't litter. The female ghost muttered, you won't let me attach to this. Is she so miserable that she can only be a poop bag? Kate shook the plastic bag, saying, it's not dirty at all. Inside the bag was only a lump of bird droppings, and she had stuffed it with paper towels. Harry asked curiously, Kate, what are you doing? Kate, busy with a focused face, replied, it's nothing, just wiping it off for ugly lady. Harry thought that the ugly aunt she was referring to was the plastic bag and couldn't help but think that the child was truly innocent. Kazo said on the side, the technique of moving souls is a bit difficult and is not at the same level as opening the eyes. You can try using the small bag first, and if it doesn't work, don't force it. Kate nodded. Kazo muttered a lot, then pointed at the female ghost and said in a low voice, go. With a whoosh, the female ghost attached itself to the plastic bag. Kazo asked, can you remember? Kate tilted her head, her little face filled with confusion. She extended her small hand and counted on her fingers. There were many characters, a total of 100, and the master read them very quickly. Kazo couldn't help but curl his lips at her miniature count and said, it's fine if you don't remember. Before the word Abra could be uttered, the female ghost flew out of the plastic bag with a whoosh sound. Kate looked bewildered and asked, why did it fly out? Kazo remained silent. Kate's eyes lit up. She realized that she had said the words backward. I'm sorry. Kate said it backward. I wanted Aunt Ugly to come in. So, muttering again, the female ghost attached its soul to the paper towel inside the plastic bag. Female ghost muttering to herself, feels like I have that parrot poop on my face. Kazo was completely stunned. Damn, not only can this little one remember, but she also successfully carried it out. Well, she can still do it backward and she can succeed. Kazo couldn't help but feel doubtful. When the car stopped, Harry said, we're here, let's get out of the car. He got out of the car with Kate in his arms, and Kate was still holding the plastic bag in her hand. A gust of wind suddenly blew, and the plastic bag in Kate's hand flew out with a whistling sound. Seeing that Kate seemed to want to grab the bag, Harry said, it's okay, there's a cleaning lady at the construction site. Innocently squeezing his fingers, Kate obeyed. No. She wanted to take out that smelly paper towel and throw it away. Sebastian parked the car, closed the car door with a bang, and impatiently stretched out his hand. Come on, Kate. Harry pursed his lips, walked away and said flatly, can you carry a child? Sebastian looked anxious. Who do you think you're looking down on? Having 2 children is amazing. Harry ignored him, carried Kate upstairs and entered the office. Everyone they encountered along the way was surprised and asked, "Harry, is this your daughter?" A hint of color flashed in Harry's eyes, and he replied, "My niece." Sebastian chimed in, "Isn't my niece adorable?" The corner of his mouth didn't budge as he continued with the introductions. On the other side, Jennifer and her mother were shopping and having morning tea. Grandma Hannah asked, "Why do you have such a bitter face so early in the morning?" Jennifer relayed what Catherine had said. "My mother-in-law asked me to divorce Harry, saying that I can't raise Jane properly." Frustrated, she slammed the cup down and said, "I don't understand. I gave birth to the child, and I'm the one raising her. Why does she say I'm not doing a good job? Her Jane is very well behaved. They have good conditions. What's wrong with her being a little lady? Girls need to have some attitude, and in the future, when they find a boyfriend, the boyfriend has to pamper them. If she's too docile, she'll be taken advantage of. The Crook family has a big business and she has the demeanor of a young lady." Grandma Hannah stared. "Did she say that? Every family has its blessings. She's really confused and even interfered in your young marriage. There's truly no good mother-in-law in the world. Let me tell you, you can't give in to this kind of wicked mother-in-law. No mother-in-law divorces her son and daughter-in-law. Who does that?" she added. Hannah went on and on. Jennifer said dejectedly, "But Harry is not on my side. He took Kate to the construction site this morning." Hannah was taken aback. Why is a child at the construction site? I'm truly speechless. Harry isn't her father. Why is she constantly clinging to Harry? See? I said this child isn't simple. She's taking everything away from Jane, and now even Jane's father wants to take it away. Jennifer sneered. Hannah pulled Jennifer up and said, Let's go. Let's go to the construction site to find Harry. This isn't good." Jennifer hesitated. "What's wrong? It's your and Harry's business. Why to involve the Crook family?" Hannah replied. So the mother and daughter rushed to the construction site. At the construction site, a plastic bag floated and drifted, hovering in an open space, constantly spinning. Jennifer and her mother got out of the car and walked towards the office building, passing by the open space. Suddenly, Jennifer noticed a spinning plastic bag in the open space, and her heart skipped a beat for some reason. That spot was exactly where Tina had been crushed to death. Jennifer's heart trembled, and she saw the spinning plastic bag abruptly come to a stop. It gave her the illusion that the plastic bag was staring at her. A shiver ran down her spine. "Mom, let's hurry." Jennifer felt flustered. Out of nowhere, a gust of wind blew, and the plastic bag rushed toward Jennifer. Jennifer screamed and ran away, stumbling in her high heels. Hannah was puzzled and asked, "What are you doing? What's so scary about a plastic bag?" Just as she spoke, the plastic bag floated towards them with a whistling sound. When the wind flew, the plastic bag stopped right before them. Hannah's words got stuck in her throat. Jennifer was frightened and trembled as she said, "Mom!" At that moment, the plastic bag slammed into her face with a whimper. A foul smell invaded her nostrils, and an unknown pile of excrement smeared across her face. Jennifer's breath caught and she fell to the ground with a thud. The plastic bag tightly covered her mouth and nose. She panicked, trying to tear it off, but failed. Jennifer's eyes widened, thinking she was about to suffocate when suddenly a hand reached out and ripped the plastic bag off. Hannah asked, "Are you all right?" They watched as the plastic bag flew away with another whirring sound, circling about a meter away, as if something was watching them. Hannah also started to feel a sense of unease. Among the rural elders there was a saying that if someone walked on the road and was inexplicably struck by something light and fluffy on their face, it must be unclean. The mother and daughter were terrified. Their faces were pale and trembling. In broad daylight, Jennifer and her mother hurriedly ran to the office building in a panic. They were relieved to see people coming and going. Turning around, they noticed the white plastic bag seemingly following them, circling in the same spot. Jennifer's hair stood on end. She rushed into Harry's office and threw herself into his arms, crying, "Harry!" Harry, who was showing Kate his blueprint, saw Jennifer rushing towards him, attempting to embrace him. He frowned and took 2 steps back. Jennifer was prepared to throw herself into his arms, but when Harry stepped aside, she ended up falling to the ground, causing her nose to bleed. Covering her nose, Jennifer got up in embarrassment and said bitterly, "Harry, you." The passing employees couldn't help but be curious, craning their necks to see what was happening in the office. Hannah quickly took out a tissue and said, "Hey, what's this? Jennifer is your wife. There's no reason for a wife to rush over and be pushed away." Harry wasn't very good at explaining, so he simply said, "Forget about throwing yourself into my arms." Jennifer felt extremely embarrassed. What did he mean by throwing herself into his arms? She felt like one of those women outside who seduce other people's husbands. But no matter how dissatisfied she was, she had to suppress her anger. She couldn't let others know that she and Harry were at odds. Arguing here would only lower her status. Jennifer looked at Kate and was about to say something when she suddenly noticed something drawn on her desk. She abruptly stopped. It was a sketch portrait, not very realistic, and it even resembled a cartoon character. But somehow it reminded her of Tina, who was crushed to death on the construction site 5 years ago. Jennifer's spine tingled with unease. Kate sat upright in her chair, glanced at Harry, and sneakily glanced at Jennifer. Her aunt's face grew scarier, with the black mist covering most of her face, leaving only her eyes exposed. She was scarier than a ghost. Kate cupped her hands and whispered, "Master, what's wrong with Aunt?" Keizo shook his head and said, "It's hopeless. Did you see the shit on her face? It seems that Tina is calling out to her." Kate glanced again, lowered her voice, and continued, "There's no shit. But it does smell a bit." Unable to hold back any longer, Jennifer couldn't help but overhear Kate and the parrot muttering, using words like shit or stinky. Jennifer had been so scared moments ago that she forgot she was covered in something. She vomited, and no longer cared about the portrait, rushing into the bathroom to vigorously wash her face. Harry looked at Hannah coldly and asked, "What are you doing here?" Hannah sighed. "Harry, listen to your mother's advice. Brent and Jane are already so old. You can't get a divorce. Give the child a complete family. It's normal for couples to argue and fight. You usually come home more often." Harry sneered. "If that's all you have to say, then you can leave." He had already given the divorce agreement to Jennifer. Whether she signs it or not is her business. Their marriage was ending anyway. Harry remained expressionless, and without waiting for Hannah to say anything, he escorted her outside. Just as Jennifer came out after washing her face, Harry forcefully pushed the door closed and locked it with a bang. The employees outside pretended to be busy with their work, but some secretly took out their phones to snap pictures. Jennifer's face turned extremely ugly, and she suppressed her voice, shouting, "Harry, open the door!" Inside the office, Harry picked up the phone, unsure of what to say. After a while, 2 security guards arrived to escort Jennifer and Hannah out. The two suddenly appeared a bit embarrassed, very shameless. Grandma Hannah's expression was embarrassing. With so many people watching, she also felt that Harry was going too far. "It's fine if you argued, but I'm his mother-in-law. It's him who kicked the mother-in-law out." Jennifer was extremely irritated. The portrait of Kate just now not only scared her, but what was even more disturbing was how could Kate know about Tina? "What are you doing at the construction site today, you little troublemaker?" she wondered. Seeing her mother still nagging, Jennifer impatiently said, "Mom, you go back first. I'll look for Harry by myself. Every time you come, you just cause trouble." Grandma Hannah immediately stared. "Why do I cause trouble every time? Don't I always care about you?" Jennifer ignored her and left directly. Hannah had no choice but to leave after nagging. Behind the construction site, Jennifer sneaked up to a bronze statue, checked it out, and was slightly relieved when she saw that there was nothing unusual. However, as soon as she turned her head, she saw a white plastic bag hanging on the branch of a bush in front of her. Seeing her expression, it swayed strangely. Jennifer turned pale with fright and ran away. The white plastic bag was blown up by the wind and followed Jennifer around. Jennifer's mind went blank and she ran faster and faster. Her high heels were gone and her always neatly groomed hair turned into a messy tangle. People flew ahead and souls chased behind Jennifer. She was so frightened that she screamed out of her wits, whimpering in terror while running, and the passing dogs were startled by her. Kate crouched in front of the large glass window of the tea room on the 16th floor, tilting her head to look at the crazy woman running past the empty construction site in the distance. The square on the construction site had been built. The ground was paved with floor tiles and there were tall buildings under construction not far away. Kate touched Exie's head and murmured, "Exie, that person looks like Aunt Jennifer." Exie also tilted his head and blinked, saying, 205. Kate corrected, "It's Aunt Jennifer, not 205. Aunt Jennifer plus Aunt Jennifer equals 205, Exie replied. That's not right, even if the calculation is wrong. It cannot be equal to 205, Kate uttered. Exie tilted his head and said, 2 plus 2 equals 5. Kate sighed. Behind Kate, several young women whispered while eating their boxed lunches. Oh my God, it's so cute, she even does math with parrots. Whose child is this? I just came back from outside. Why is there something wrong in our office? One more child? Is it Mr. Crooks? They raised their fingers and noticed that in the tea room, Harry was sweating profusely while preparing milk powder. The adults went to the tea room to drink coffee during their breaks. Harry felt that Kate wanted to drink something, so he found a can of milk powder somewhere. At that moment, like a scientist experimenting, he carefully read the instructions on the milk can, took 2 level scoops of milk powder with a spoon, and looked at the water glass's scale line. Suddenly there was a snap outside the glass window, and a plastic bag stuck to it. Kate snorted. Hi, Aunt Tina. The female ghost stuck out her tongue like a dog. Quick, let me in. She wanted to cry, but no tears came. It was so inhumane to send the ghost outside to work in broad daylight. She was almost blown away by the sun. Kazo, who was bored, leaned against the glass window, squinting his eyes to bask in the sun, and said, Don't worry, my lord won't let you die. No matter how much you sunbathe, you won't die. The female ghost was secretly startled, but Kate raised her head and said, Master, don't pretend to be tough. You might as well pretend to be struck by lightning. Kazo sneered and was about to say something when suddenly there was a muffled thunder in the clear sky outside. A tiny bolt of lightning streaked across the blue sky. Kazo thought to himself, coincidence. He coughed. Hurry up and bring the female ghost back. Do you remember the soul-shifting technique? If you don't remember. Before he finished speaking, Kate raised her arm, pressed her small hands on the glass, and scratched. With a whoosh sound, the female ghost returned to the soul gourd. Kazo touched his nose and wondered, what kind of creature is this? Meanwhile, Harry came over with the prepared milk and handed a round glass to Kate, saying, Drink it quickly. Kate took it and thanked sweetly, saying, Thank you, Uncle Harry. Harry smiled sheepishly. Although he has 2 children, he rarely spends time with them, and he admits that he is not a good father. In the past, her father often talked about divorcing her mother. Felt guilty. But at that time, she was too young to understand what divorce was. Do you think your Aunt Jennifer and I should get divorced? It turned out that divorce meant marrying a new lady. Uncle Harry. Kate couldn't understand adults. Get married and then get divorced. She asked Harry why he married Jennifer. She also knew about the divorce. Harry was momentarily stunned by the question. He couldn't answer Kate's question. He pursed his lips and said in a muffled voice, Because Aunt Jennifer was pregnant with your older brother Brent. After all, it was something he had done. The only thing Harry regretted was not knowing about being deceived until Jane was born. During that time, his younger sister Carolina was seriously ill, and then disappeared, so he didn't have much time to think about it. Kate frowned, feeling more perplexed. Then why does Aunt Jennifer have brother Brent in her stomach? Did Uncle Harry like Aunt Jennifer? Harry shook his head. You don't understand. Kate was blank and she stared at Harry. Harry felt uncomfortable under her gaze and asked, What's wrong? Kate uttered, Uncle Harry didn't like Aunt Jennifer, yet he had a child with her. Is Uncle Harry what others call a scumbag? She had a cute little face with a serious expression. Harry opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. Understandingly, Kate patted Harry and comforted him. It's okay, Uncle Harry. Kate understands. Harry was blank as he couldn't figure out what did she really understand. Before he could speak, Sebastian approached. Kate, the little girl of Uncle Sebastian. Sebastian didn't even remove his safety helmet and was sweating profusely. He happily reached out his hand to hug Kate. Harry slapped his hand away. Don't you think it's dirty? Sebastian didn't mind and still wanted to hug her. He picked up Kate and laughed. Kate told Uncle Sebastian, She is bored here. Let's go. Uncle Sebastian will take you to the construction site to play. Just after inspecting the site, the first thing he did was show off his precious niece to the workers. Harry disagreed even more. Why the construction site? It's dangerous. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter, he exclaimed. Sebastian said indifferently, Our Kate is not unauthorized. Does the little director know that? Kate nodded confidently. That's right, I'm not just sitting around. She was always busy. The ugly ghost lady had just mentioned that Aunt Jennifer had gone to the construction site. There must be something hidden in the bronze statue. She was determined to find it. Sebastian was delighted and walked with Kate holding her in his arms. Whenever he saw someone, he would say, Hey Simon, look, this is my niece. Hey Dave, isn't my niece adorable? Hey Dana, look at my niece. Isn't she cute? Kate was blank. Feeling embarrassed, she couldn't help covering her face as she was praised and shown off all the way. As a result, her adorable appearance made everyone laugh even more. Sebastian's heart melted, and everyone witnessed a dramatic transformation. The usually rough and foul-mouthed guy turned into a soft-spoken man. What a spectacle! Soon they arrived at the construction site. Although Sebastian was shouting, he still had some sense of caution. The under-construction real estate didn't allow Kate inside. They were now in the square where bronze statues stood, and the floor tiles had been laid. Sebastian said, This square has already been completed. There's a children's playground area over there. Come on, Uncle Sebastian will take you to play there. When he finished speaking, he pointed to a high-rise building under construction in the distance. That building over there is an office building, and the one next to it, shaped like a big footplate, is a shopping center. Kate pointed to the sculpture in the center of the square and asked, Uncle Sebastian, what's that? Sebastian glanced at it and said, That's a sculpture of the Phoenix Totem, made of stainless steel, designed by your Uncle Harry. Kate broke free from Sebastian and ran over. Sebastian quickly warned, Don't run around, it's dangerous. Kate ran to the sculpture and asked, Uncle Sebastian, do you have that super big hammer? Can you show it to Kate? Sebastian thought Kate was just curious. Being an engineer, he liked these types of tools. People used to say he had strange preferences. Now that Kate was interested, he immediately asked someone to bring a hammer. Kate, I'm not just saying it. If we talk about who has the most complete collection of tools in the country, it's definitely your Uncle Sebastian. Uncle Sebastian has 4,000 different hammers. After finishing his work, Harry arrived. He saw a worker pulling a cart with various hammers and he was speechless. He asked, What are you doing? Kate looked up, blushing, and excitedly said, Look at the hammer. Harry was blank. Sebastian squatted in front of Kate and introduced the tools. This is called a carpenter's hammer, and it's usually used for hammering nails. This is called a masonry hammer, and this one is called a flat-tail hammer, he explained. Sebastian held a small hammer that Kate could hold in her hand. Harry was speechless as he saw Kate with a serious face, comparing the weight of one hammer with another. Indeed, she was just comparing hammers. Keizo floated over and pointed at Kate, saying, Little kid, take this and use it to hammer this bronze statue. Kate, but I can't lift it. The hammer looked heavy. Keizo smirked. If you don't try, how will you know if you can't do it? Seeing Kate reaching for the big hammer, Sebastian said, This one is powerful. It's used for heavy-duty tasks like smashing walls. Its handle is flexible and can absorb shock. Kate was eager to give it a try. Keizo said, Yes, go ahead and give it a swing. Kate said, Uncle Sebastian, may I borrow your hammer for a while? Harry and Sebastian momentarily forgot about her breaking the iron bar that day, and their first reaction was that the hammer was too heavy for her to lift. However, Kate let out a hey, swung the big hammer vigorously, and with a loud bang, struck the sculpture. The little girl twirled around and shouted, I did it! A loud sound echoed as a big hole was smashed at the foot of the sculpture. Something fell inside with a crash, and a cloud of dust billowed up. Harry and Sebastian were shocked by the scenario that was in front of them. The dust settled, revealing what had fallen out of the sculpture. It was a skeletal hand. The hand was positioned as if it was holding something like a package wrapped in craft paper. Harry immediately hugged Kate and covered her eyes. Sebastian opened his mouth, feeling a chill beneath the sun. Harry, take Kate back home, Sebastian ordered. I don't want to go back, Kate replied. Before she could finish, Harry picked her up and hurriedly walked away. He said, "Kate, good girl, this isn't a place for children. Go home and play with Grandma while your Uncle Harry and Sebastian are taking care of things. But remember, it was your Uncle Sebastian who accidentally smashed a big hole in the sculpture with a hammer. He showed it to you, but he got too excited." Kate looked confused. "Really? Why should I lie?" Harry was silent for a moment and then said softly, "Just listen to what I say." Kate rested her head on Harry's shoulder and said, "Okay." After sending Kate home, Harry hurriedly left. Catherine quickly arranged for food to be made for Kate. Kate sat upright on the sofa and asked in a low voice, "Master, why should I lie about the statue to the family? Why uncles are asking me to lie?" Keizo sat cross-legged, flipping through something in his hand. He replied casually, "The police officers and other people aren't bad people, but there might be bad people who find out. Imagine if others know how strong you are. What if they try to dissect you and study you?" Kate immediately straightened up and waved her hands, saying, "I don't want to be dissected. Why would anyone want to dissect children? Do bad people do that?" At that time only, Catherine approached with peeled apples asking if she wanted them sliced, but Kate told her not to slice them. Kate exclaimed and smiled, "Okay, don't slice them. I'll eat them whole." Kate thought Catherine was talking about slicing her instead of the apples. Seeing the puzzled look on the little girl's face, Kazo couldn't help but smirk. He raised his hand and summoned the female ghost from the soul gourd. "Why is your hand missing?" Kazo asked, looking at the female ghost's hand. As a ghost, she had hands. The incompleteness was only visible when the tragic state of her death was revealed, so Kazo hadn't noticed it before. After death, the body needed to be intact for a proper burial. That's why the ancients placed great importance on dying with a whole body. The female ghost complained, "When I was crushed to death, my hand got broken. I was still clutching money in my hand. Even in death, she was fixated on the money and held on to it tightly. I don't want to reincarnate without my hand. I've been wandering around for the past 5 years, hoping to retrieve my hand." Kazo flipped through a notebook and asked casually, "Didn't you know that the bag of salt wasn't salt?" The female ghost fell silent. Kazo sneered, "I know it's something bad, but money has no conscience. Good and evil in this world eventually receive their just rewards." He didn't know how the female ghost's hand ended up in the sculpture, but now that the police had found the hand, they only needed to extract Jennifer's fingerprints from the money-wrapped craft paper, which Jennifer would be done for. Meanwhile, Kate was wholeheartedly enjoying her apples. She took a bite and offered it to Exie. Exie happily accepted and ate it. Kate continued to bite her apple. She giggled and finally the apples were gone. Catherine cheerfully said, "My mother-in-law and aunt made hibiscus custard. Grandma will make it for you." Kate smiled and obediently replied, "Thank you, Grandma." With no adults in the living room, Kate tilted her head and stuffed the apple core into Exie's mouth. "Here, have a big bite," she exclaimed. Exie shook his head, spat out the apple core and squawked, "It's stinky." Kate found it amusing and laughed. Keizo couldn't help but join in the laughter. When he first met Kate, she was reserved and emotionless, like a little robot. But now she had opened up and become even more endearing. Just as he was laughing, a cold voice suddenly cut through. What would others think if a little girl always talks about her parrot? Jennifer had just returned from outside, and she was feeling unhappy. Right when Jennifer made her comment, Exie tossed the apple core at Jennifer's feet. That immediately soured her mood. The smile on Kate's face disappeared and she pursed her lips. "Aunt Jennifer." Jennifer frowned. "Don't call me Aunt Jennifer. Having a child like you in our family brings nothing but bad luck." She held a bag in her hand, looking dignified and composed. But there was a trace of disgust in her eyes. It was because of this little girl that her relationship with Harry suddenly deteriorated, and the entire Crook family was pressuring Harry to divorce her. Kate couldn't help but recall what Lena often said, that she was like a broomstick of misfortune, and anyone who saw her would be unlucky. In the past, she didn't dare to talk back to her grandparents for fear of going hungry, but now she felt a newfound courage within her. "I'm not," Kate said. "People are unlucky because their shadows are crooked, not because of me. It has nothing to do with me. Every time Grandma, Grandpa, or Dad had bad luck, their shadows appeared crooked." Jennifer was immediately irritated when she heard this. "What does this girl mean?" she exclaimed in frustration. She's implying that she has a wicked mind, Kate replied. With a loud bang, Jennifer slammed the bag she was holding onto the cloakroom and gave a stern lecture. How dare you speak to your elders like that? When an elder asks something, you shouldn't bully them. And if an elder gives you an order, you shouldn't be late. Don't you understand this truth? I'm talking to you, and you should just listen. It's for your good that I'm educating you. Kate pursed her lips, shook her head, and replied, Aunt Jennifer, it's not for my benefit. It's only for your own benefit. Jennifer became even more annoyed. How dare this child talk back to her? She found her extremely irritating. Glancing around, she couldn't spot Catherine and Mason, assuming they had gone to a nursing home. Today was the 10th, and Catherine had to go for treatment on this day every month. Believing that they had left, Jennifer walked up to Kate, crossed her arms, and scolded coldly. Stand up, she ordered. Kate shook her head. Jennifer's expression grew darker, and a black mist seemed to loom over her head. The mist nearly covered her eyes, leaving only her eyeballs exposed. It was truly frightening. In Jennifer's mind, anyone who stood still would be considered a fool. Kate hugged her toy and ran away. Jennifer was taken aback. How dare she still run? She frowned angrily and shouted, Stop! Inside the grand mansion of the Crook family, the kitchen was separated from the living room. Catherine picked up the custard while the servant Daniel said, Madam, let me take care of these things. Catherine shook her head. Kate has finally returned, and I want to make it for her myself. In the past, Carolina couldn't eat during her chemotherapy, so Catherine had wanted to cook delicious meals for her every day once she recovered. Unfortunately, she never got the chance. Now it seemed like Kate had been sent to her by fate, and Catherine didn't want to miss these opportunities anymore. Daniel sighed inwardly, but then she noticed a small figure rushing in. Grandmother. Catherine saw the tense expression on Kate's face and asked quickly, What's wrong? Before Kate could speak, a cold voice interrupted. Kate, do you think you can escape? Catherine's face turned cold in an instant. Just as Jennifer entered the kitchen, the coldness on her face hadn't faded when she saw Catherine giving her a cold stare. Surprised by Catherine's presence, Jennifer said, Mom, why are you here? Catherine sneered and replied, Didn't expect me to be here? Were you bullying Kate while I wasn't around? Jennifer hastily waved her hand. No, Mother. Just now Kate threw apple cores on the ground, so I was educating her. But I didn't expect her to refuse to listen and even insulted others. I believe it's wrong for children to disrespect their elders, so I wanted to reason with her. I didn't expect her to come here. Catherine took off the oven mitt in her hand and viciously threw it at Jennifer's face. Did you read my letter? Get out of here. The bullying of her granddaughter had reached her ears. If she hadn't been present, would Jennifer still have dared to mistreat Kate today? Jennifer despised Kate to the core. The little brat knew that Catherine was in the kitchen but deliberately kept quiet. She deliberately provoked Jennifer and ran to the kitchen. Such scheming at such a young age. Jennifer was both anxious and angry. She suppressed her temper and said, Mom, why are you covering up for her? You're spoiling her like this. Kate pursed her lips, glancing at her grandmother, and then at Jennifer. She shook her head firmly and said, I didn't insult anyone. Aunt Jennifer said that seeing me brought bad luck. But I said that the bad luck wasn't because of me, but because of the crooked shadows. Aunt Jennifer wanted to teach Kate a lesson. Catherine's face grew even darker. Daniel, pack up her things and throw them out. From today onwards, our Crook family will no longer have a daughter-in-law like you. Jennifer's eyes turned red. She bit her lips and said, You keep spoiling her, but one day you'll regret it. With those words, she turned around and angrily stormed back to her room upstairs. She had no intention of leaving. Jennifer closed the door behind her but refused to leave. She thought Catherine was blind. Catherine watched Jennifer bullying Kate, feeling furious in her heart. What? They say that their in-laws are meddling in their affairs. What about when it's her turn? Who gave her the right to educate my Kate? Daniel coughed. Madam, don't be angry. The child is still here. Kate raised her hand and patted Catherine on the back, trying to console her. Grandma, don't be angry. Not angry. Kate's face was filled with self-blame. Her mom had said she wanted to make Grandma happy, but instead, she made her angry. Catherine suppressed her anger and decided to comfort Kate before dealing with Jennifer. After watching Kate eat a bowl of custard and playing with her in the room until she fell asleep, she gently closed the door and left, her kind face gradually turning stern. "Where is Jennifer?" she questioned. Unexpectedly, Daniel replied, "Madame just went to pick up the young lady and the young master." Jennifer had slipped away while Catherine was putting Kate to bed. Catherine inquired further, "Did she pack her things?" Daniel nodded. "I packed everything up after Madame left just now. It's all here." Catherine was about to throw Jennifer's belongings out when they heard Jane crying from outside the manor. "No, I don't want to, no." She had managed to provoke her again, and now she was crying even before entering the house. Soon Catherine spotted Brent running in, muttering, "I'm so annoyed." When he saw Catherine, he quickly called Grandma and immediately rushed back to the room, slamming the door shut. Catherine asked Daniel to take the wheelchair outside. At that time, Jennifer was comforting Jane. It turned out that on the way back, the more Jennifer thought about it, the more uneasy she felt, fearing that Catherine would kick her out of the house in a fit of anger. Jennifer knew that Jane would cry upon hearing this. Sure enough, Jane didn't want to leave, so she burst into tears. Jennifer tried to console her, saying, "Okay, stop crying, Jane, all right?" Unexpectedly, Jane cried even more intensely. At that moment, Catherine came. Catherine gave Jane a cold look, perhaps still angry or annoyed by Jane's habit of resolving issues by crying. So Catherine coldly shouted, "If you want to cry, go ahead and cry. Daniel, get her a basin. Let her cry her heart out. Don't stop until the basin is filled with tears." Jane trembled in fear and became too scared to cry. But then, she heard her mother say, "Mom, what are you doing? You scared Jane." As she spoke, she pulled Jane behind her. So Jane began crying again, letting out loud sobs and stamping her feet. Catherine remained cold-hearted, and even if people from all over the world accused her of interfering in her son and daughter-in-law's family matters, she paid no attention. "Daniel, throw her things out," she ordered. Daniel quickly dragged Jennifer's belongings and tossed them outside the mansion's gate. Jennifer was taken aback. "She's serious about this?" Jennifer couldn't believe it. Catherine couldn't have acted so harshly in front of the children. Jane and Brent had always been Jennifer's shields. Whenever they quarreled, as long as Jane was taken out and cried, the matter would be resolved. "Mom, don't be so impulsive in front of the children," Jennifer cried. Catherine interrupted her with a cold expression. "I know you. Don't call me Mom. Get out." Jennifer choked back her words and couldn't leave immediately. Her face turned extremely ugly. Catherine didn't even give her time to think. She immediately had someone drive her out. Jennifer was furious and anxious, shouting, "Jane, fine. If you won't show any kindness, then I'll take Jane away." The bodyguard told her with a cold expression and blank face, "Madam, you can't take anything with you today." After speaking, he asked her to get her out of the door and slammed the door shut. That was Albert's bodyguard who stayed in the mansion. After Catherine returned, he only followed Catherine's orders. As for the security guards who allowed James and Carol to enter, Albert ruthlessly fired them. Jennifer felt like she was about to explode with anger. Her heart ached, her lungs ached, and her entire body burned with rage. Damn it! Did Kate say something to Catherine while she wasn't at home just now? In the mansion, Jane was so scared that she stopped crying and sniffled softly. Catherine became even angrier and said with a cold face, "You like crying so much, then keep crying. You won't stop until this pot is filled with tears." Jane was truly frightened, and she started crying again. Before, when she cried, she still held back a little as she was crying just to cause trouble. But this time she genuinely cried. The little one held the basin and continued to cry, with tears falling into the basin as if they were worthless. Catherine, too, had a stubborn temper and watched her cry silently. Even in old age, people can still have childish tempers. She said to herself, "If you're stubborn, I'll be stubborn too." The old and the young were locked in a stalemate like this, and eventually, Jane grew tired of crying. But Jane didn't dare to stop. She looked down and saw that the large basin couldn't even hold half a cup of tears, and she cried even harder. While crying, she choked up and said, "Grandma, I can't cry anymore. I'm so thirsty. I want to drink water." Daniel couldn't help but laugh. Catherine was both angry and amused, and she asked, "Are you still crying?" Jane sniffled and shook her head with red eyes. Catherine snorted and went back inside the house. Daniel hurried forward and said, "Miss, go back. Go back and drink a glass of water slowly." Jane's eyes were red. No one had ever treated her like this before. In the past, whenever she cried, her mother would fulfill all her demands. But now she was starting to understand that crying wasn't always effective. At least crying in front of Grandma didn't work. Jane was led inside by Daniel and sat on the sofa, drinking water and belching. By that time, no one else had returned, and her mother had been driven away too. It seemed like she was the only one left in the vast mansion. Jane suddenly felt fear, panic, and confusion. She had never experienced anything like this before. She felt abandoned by the whole world at that moment. At her most helpless moment, a small figure suddenly ran down the stairs. Kate handed her a lollipop and said, "Sister, here you go." When she woke up earlier, she saw Jane crying in the garden with a basin in her hand from the window. Jane sniffled, turned her face away and said, "I don't want your candy." Kate immediately put the lollipop in her pocket and said, "Okay, then I won't give it to you." Jane was blank with no expressions. Kate curiously asked, "Sister Jane, is your basin filled with tears?" It was fine till it wasn't mentioned, but as soon as it was brought up, Jane immediately thought of the large basin. She felt like she had cried so much that she couldn't even fill it halfway, and she immediately pouted, tears streaming down her face once again. Kate hurriedly dashed to the side and extended the pot just a moment ago. "Sis, come on. If you cry a bit more, it's still a long way from being full." "So," Jane sobbed and said, You should hold it better. Don't let my tears fall on the ground." The two of them were perspiring profusely. They saw that the basin was only damp, so they shook it and finally noticed some watermarks, but Jane couldn't cry anymore. Kate promptly picked up the water glass from the table. "Sis, there's no water in your eyes. You should drink some water quickly and you'll have it." Jane gulped down a glass of water and sniffled but couldn't cry. Kate immediately made another drink. "Have some more?" In the end, Jane drank 4 glasses of water and her stomach was nearly bursting. Their voices grew hoarse after laboring for a while, but the basin still wasn't full. Kate looked sympathetic. "What should we do? If the basin isn't full, will Grandma not feed you?" Jane said, "Oh, no." Kate's eyes brightened and she immediately lifted the basin. Albert returned with Alex and Roy, and they saw Jane crying and hiccuping in the living room while Kate held a basin to collect her tears. Kate continued to shout, "Keep going, sister." Albert furrowed his brow and asked, "What's going on?" Kate turned her head and quickly explained, "Uncle Albert, Grandma told Sister Jane to cry until the pot is filled to the brim. We're working hard." Jane wanted to cry again upon seeing Albert, but couldn't produce any tears. She felt so exhausted. It was the first time she had felt this tired from crying, and she never wanted to cry again. Jane pitifully asked, "Uncle Albert, I cannot cry anymore. Can you ask Grandma to switch to a smaller pot?" Kate vigorously shook her head. "The pot won't work, Uncle Albert. Why don't you ask Grandma to switch to a cup?" They shook the basin, considering that a cup might not be enough to fill it. Even a small pot wouldn't suffice. Albert was speechless as he didn't have any words to react to this stupidity. Roy, who was quite good at math, had his hands in his pockets as he spoke with disbelief. Ordinary people produce about 5 milliliters of tears when they cry once. A wash basin holds around 10 liters of water, which is 10,000 milliliters. Crying once a day would take 2,000 days to fill it up. And that's not even accounting for evaporation. It would take 5 continuous years of crying to fill it. Jane cried, "Then what should I do? I can't cry anymore." Kate pondered for a moment. "Then we'll wake up tomorrow and cry again." Crying for 5 years didn't seem like such a long time. Kate muttered words of comfort. The corners of Albert's lips formed a line and his eyes unknowingly carried a smile. For the first time, he realized how innocent children could be, which simultaneously made him amused and exasperated. He said, "Go and play. I will talk to Grandma." Kate nodded eagerly, took Jane's hand and ran upstairs. "Hurry!" They were afraid Grandma might change her mind once she came out.
Kate and Roy finished up their food in the hallway. Kate scooted closer to Roy.
"I'm trying to catch an evil spirit. It's following Sarah around, sucking out her spirit like an iced latte."
Roy suddenly felt a gust of wind against his neck.
"I thought ghosts only came out at night.
Some do. There are 3 types of ghosts. First, there are wandering ghosts. They've died in abnormal ways and can't reincarnate. Then there are vengeful ghosts. They've died tragically, and they can appear suddenly to scare us away. And finally, there are evil ghosts. They are very fierce and can even devour people. Wandering ghosts and vengeful spirits can't appear during the day, but evil ghosts...
Roy quickly covered Kate's mouth. Kate wrestled Roy's arm away.
Why are you so scared of ghosts? They're just like people. Well, except their eyeballs bulge out, and their limbs might fall off.